figuring out like the ins and outs of like managing my own finances. I get really nerdy about stuff like that, like spreadsheets and numbers.
Dealing with debt or paycheck to paycheck kind of lifestyle and just trying to figure out like a plan.
I see low incomes, really high incomes, but it's all people who want that sense of control with their money.
I went from making more money than I'd ever been making before to zero.
Yeah.
And then just having to like figure it out.
A lot of the people who come to me, they're ready to change. But I don't think the majority of people really know how they're spending their money.
Find achievable goals, adding to your routine, and then over time that'll start making the other changes easier.
You're like, yup, there it is. That's a recipe for success, baby. I'm out here eating out of my tiramisu drawer.
You mentioned imams. We love imams.
Oh, for sure.
Every minute.
No, we don't.
Minute.
And I spent more time in red than any other zone.
That's crazy.
It undulates, you know, like my positive self-talk versus my super incredible negative self-deprecation. What should you do?
My first thing is like, I want to always make sure when I work with someone that they have their
Game plan.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do on that end.
No, we don't. Not really.
I just mean on like, this is like the fourth we've made in a week without posting. So there's like 4 episodes that will need to go out, which is really exciting. I feel like we finally have batched, you know, like we're like finally
we have a backlog.
Finally,
you know?
we kind of created one and then we kind of like used it up.
Yeah.
And then now we're back to where we have a good one.
Yeah.
And I would say the next month should allow to keep that.
For sure.
You know, I just don't want to, we got to figure out like how to time them because I don't want to go too long from shooting to posting.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll figure that out probably this week too. Welcome back to another episode of Game Plan, the podcast. I'm your host, Davis Cole, and joined as always by our producer, Juice.
Yo.
Today's guest is a financial coach. Please welcome to the podcast, Nick Loera.
Type.
All right. Thanks, bro. That was sick. I really like shitting on fucking Hyrox. Cameras are rolling. You want to clap?
We are good. Yeah, let's get a clap. Tight. Actually,
Maybe I should do that on this side.
I didn't feel good about that.
Sick.
Tight.
Well, dude, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man.
Really appreciate that. Thanks for
you guys
taking
asking.
the time out of your day. I think having you on is funny. We were talking about it, about how like I'm a jiu-jitsu guy and I'm like a artist jiu-jitsu guy that doesn't want to like live the normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And with that comes like the financial decisions to do it. It's been tough financially, you know, because what I had to do in 2020 coming back was like, I was a restaurant manager. I was making pretty good money in Houston, but I was spending all of it. Right. So I had to do this like lifestyle change of going from paying, you know, $2,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment to coming back here and paying my brother a couple $100, you know, and then just kind of cut out all other non-essential expenses. So it was just down to like gas. At the time I didn't have a car payment. So it's just like gas, car insurance, and food, you know, very small rent. And then it's just been like baseline, like not saving any money, not fucking going into any debt, but not making any extra. And just kind of like I saw some of your shorts and stuff like paycheck to paycheck, you know? So I imagine from your perspective, that's like the exact opposite of what you would advise. You know what I mean? Like we'll talk more about it when we're done and stuff. For sure. But just kind of walk me through where you got to, I guess maybe go back to like you started in freelance media stuff and then that pushed you into like your current financial coaching role.
I mean, first, I love hearing stories like that, dude. Like it seems like what I find is like there's so many people who live in a space where it's like things aren't that bad. And so change is like really hard to make. And it's once things get into a position where it's like, this is really uncomfortable. Now it's like, dude, now I can like put in the work that I need to do to make the actual progress that I need to make. You know, like now I imagine on the other side of that is like, you're not going to be wasting money. You're not going to be like, I don't know, being irresponsible with your finances now because you had to go through such a hard time. That's taught you a lot of skills.
For sure.
Yeah. I see stories like that as like, that's how you make lasting change with the way you want to do your finances. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I told Juice this in the beginning, but like I used to do media right when I graduated college in 2020, mainly like fitness stuff. So like the gym, the CrossFit gym that I used to go to, like I did media for them. And I was doing this throughout college too, just like mostly in the fitness space. And I quickly realized like, man, like once I started making some money from that, like, you know, projects here and there and money would hit my bank account, I was like, I had no clue what I was doing. You know, I was like, let's see, I was probably like 19 or 20 when I started like earning money from like doing freelance media, and like money would hit my bank account. And like, it wasn't until I graduated college that I was like, man, I really don't know what I'm doing with my finances. And so I was like, all right, if I want to like give this freelance media thing like a real shot, I'm like, I should probably figure out like how to not feel that way anymore with my money, you know? And so I was like, all right, let me spend the next, you know, 1 to 2 years, like really diving into the world of finances. And so I spent like a really long time, like listening to podcasts, watching videos, like figuring out like the ins and outs of like managing my own finances. And quickly I was like, man, this is like, I don't know. I get really nerdy about stuff like that, like spreadsheets and numbers. Like I enjoy that stuff. And I know most people do not, but I was like, all right, this is like fun stuff for me. And so like quickly it was like, all right, can I help like my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, like helping her with her finances? Like she was like kind of getting into that stuff as well. Friends, family, like it was quickly like, all right, I actually enjoy doing this stuff, you know? And so it wasn't too long after that to where I started offering it as like a service, but it was still just like on the side, you know, like I was mainly focused on the media. And it probably wasn't until the end of last year where I was like, all right, let me make this transition. We were getting ready to move out here to Texas from California. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have to restart my business either way moving out here, because filming is mainly an in-person thing, right? So I was like, cool, I want to give this financial stuff a shot. So it was the end of last year where I really made the transition to like focus on that full time. And I still do media stuff for like clients who I've had for years. Like if they reach out, I'm like, not going to turn them away. But the financial coaching is like the thing I mainly focus on now.
And so do you have like specific clients you work with individually on that?
Yeah. So most of the people I work with are a lot of couples, but individuals as well. Like just people who are looking to kind of like where I was at. It's like, I don't really know what I'm doing with my finances. This sucks. Like it doesn't feel good to feel like that. And I want that to change, you know? And so people who are looking to get more control with their money, that's who I work with.
So more people kind of like in my situation that are maybe dealing with debt or paycheck to paycheck kind of lifestyle and just trying to figure out like a plan to kind of get out of that.
Yeah, 100%. And the spectrum for sure. Like there's people who are situations like you described, and then people who are making great incomes, but like they just don't really know what to do with it. Like they never like, and I think this is true for most people, they never really had an opportunity to learn this stuff. Like if your parents didn't teach you, school probably didn't teach you as well. And if you didn't like dig into it yourself, like watching videos or whatever, you don't really know how to manage your money. You know, most people I think are in that boat. And so the income side is like, I see low incomes, really high incomes, but it's all people who want that sense of control with their money.
Have you seen that guy? I think it's Caleb Hammer.
Oh, dude, love Caleb Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he just takes on people like me or arguably much worse situations, right? Where
sure.
like they don't have maybe self-control and or they don't understand what they're doing and they just like get credit cards or they had like really bad student loans. And I love watching him just like lose his mind and get angry at people. Because like you said, they're not willing to give something up, right? Like I see that time and time from his clips where it's somebody be like, he's like, dude, you're spending all this money. You don't need all this stuff. And they're like, well, we want to have a nice truck. And he's like, well, you can't afford a nice truck. And they're just like, well, we're going to keep living this way, you know? And I will say like, there's definitely like a very humble side of what I learned in 2020 because I went from making more money than I'd ever been making before to zero. And then just having to like figure it out. And I had to go work at Papa John's during the spring of 2020 because like I said, I came back to work at a jiu-jitsu gym. I moved back in March, like 12th, and March 17th, I want to say, was the day they shut down gyms in Texas. So even though I was back to work at a jiu-jitsu gym, we were closed. And we still did some private training sessions and stuff and put like the trash bags on the windows trying to be all secretive. But ultimately I had to do something, and going from like freshly getting my degree, coming from being in a position where I was like, I had a staff and I was like running these shifts and all that kind of thing to I'm just a pizza delivery boy, you know? And that was really good for me, honestly, just on like a more personal side of I had to start from like complete scratch, you know? And I didn't make a ton of money delivering pizza. So I had like a shift scheduled the day that the gyms opened. And the manager from Papa John's calls me and she's like, hey, like you're supposed to be here. What's going on? I was like, oh yeah, gyms are back open. So I'm never coming back there again, you know, which is definitely like the least professional thing I've ever done. But I just didn't care about the job,
Yeah.
you know, and I was just like doing it to supplement some income.
Yeah.
And honestly, the coolest thing about that gig was it was peak pandemic. Nice. So the only people I saw on the road were Domino's drivers and I was Papa John's, and then police officers. Nice. And so like for the GPS for like making the trips was exact.
Nice.
If it takes 8 minutes to get here, it takes exactly 8 minutes. And that last couple of shifts I did, Texas really started to open up. That week before it was like officially open for gyms and other businesses. Yeah. And I started to deal with traffic. Oh, yeah, and I was like, oh, I can't do this job because it's all about dollar per hour, right? Yeah. If I can make these trips with no traffic super quickly, I can, you know, run a few pizzas, come back, get a couple more, get as many as I can. Yeah. Once that traffic hits, it's like this was up at by IKEA. Okay. So the traffic's just terrible up there. And I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not worth my time. But just being humbled and put into that situation where I had to give up any kind of material items. I couldn't buy anything. And I was just like scraping by, getting whatever food I could. But hitting that rock bottom, ultimately I felt like was like a really good place to be because then it's like everything I did from there is like a win. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, 100% changes your life. And that's what I was trying to articulate in the beginning is like those people you see on Caleb Hammer, like they're in terrible situations. Like you said, arguably worse than yours. But like, I don't know that they've hit rock bottom yet because so many of them are so like defensive about what they are doing currently and then argumentative about making changes moving forward. And it's like, dude, if you are fighting, like you can't go out to eat, you know, this month and you're fighting that, like you're not going to be able to make progress. You know, I don't think you've hit rock bottom, really hit rock bottom yet, because otherwise you wouldn't have the choice to say, am I going to go out and spend my money or am I going to save my money? Like it would be this is what I have to do.
The choice is made for you.
Yeah, the choice would be made.
There are no options.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So do you deal with people that, because I kind of see this publicly, but I don't know anyone personally, where like they're just trying to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing, where maybe they're in like a suburban friend group and stuff, and they got to have the nice looking house and the nice looking car, but they're just like way over leveraged for the visual look of their lifestyle. Do you deal with that kind of thing?
You know, a lot of the people who come to me, they're ready to change, you know, and that's like, you know, quote unquote, how I sell them on like working with me is like, you are ready to change. Like if you need the plan, like I can give you the plan, but you got to be ready, you know, and I try not to like, I don't want to waste someone else's time. I also want to waste my time. Like if I don't think that they're ready to make changes, it's going to be a lose-lose for everyone, you know? So I'm like, okay, I try to find people, and people do best with me if they're in that mindset of like, I need to make changes and I'm ready for it. Just tell me what to do. I have worked with some people though. It's like, you know, it's a little bit of a struggle, and not that that's a bad thing. Like it's human, right? Like I totally get it. Like there are things that I want just because I want, and it looks nice. It's cool. Like, but most of the people I work with are in that mindset where they're ready to change.
What are some of the top pieces of advice that you give to people? What are like the main mistakes you see people making that you kind of jump on first?
Yeah, I would say like the biggest thing I see is like most people would say like, yeah, I know how I spend my money. You know, like they just kind of say it, you know, loosely. But I don't think the majority of people, especially not in the United States, really know how they're spending their money. They don't know what's coming in accurately. They don't know what's going out, more importantly, accurately, right? That's where I usually tell people to start, like whether they work with me or not, that's the first place is like, you really got to know the ins and outs of your income and your expenses. Otherwise, like we can't make a plan, you know, like you can't get out of debt if you don't know how much money you could put towards debt on a monthly basis. You can't build up your savings. You can't invest for retirement. You can't get out of the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle if you don't know what's coming in and what needs to go out on a monthly basis, you know? That's where I tell people to start. But yeah, that for sure is like getting a really solid budget in place and like doing it over and over and over again.
Doing an assessment of what's coming in versus what's going out. What does that generally look like? Do you tell people it's like, okay, log into your like bank, right? Export your your data and then work with it in Excel and see what's up. Is that generally the workflow?
I mean, yeah. Okay. If you're familiar with Caleb Hammer, it's like what he does live on the show is like very similar to like just what I've been doing. Like when I work with someone, the very first thing I have them do is they send me their bank statements, and I'll go through it and highlight line item by line item, and so I get a full month of their statements. And in the first call, it's like going through it like, hey, like this is how much actually came in. this is where all your money actually went. You know, like, and again, a lot of people say like, yeah, I know where my money went, or I don't think I spend my money poorly or whatever. But until you look at the numbers, you really don't know. But yeah, bringing in or figuring out what you bring in and then going line item by line item, what is going out? Like, what is your housing costs, your food costs, your utility costs, your transportation costs, and then where did you, above what you need to spend, where did the rest of your money go? You know, most people have some BS in their spending that they could cut if they wanted to make progress, but it's really just about highlighting that stuff, identifying it. Because then, you know, once you know what the problem is, it's for most people, like, it's pretty obvious at that point. It's like, all right, if now I have the numbers in front of me and I know I spent, you know, $500 this month, like eating out, like, and I can't make progress and it's difficult for me to pay my rent, that's probably the place to start, you know? So once you can get really clear on where all the numbers are, like in my mind, like it's a lot easier for people to be like, all right, that is glaringly obvious, like what the problem is. Like, if I don't want to make change, like it's on me at that point, you know?
Are people generally surprised at whenever they look at their bank statements and be like, oh shit, I didn't realize that I had another $250 in subscriptions that I haven't used in 2 years or something?
It's always the eating out that I see. Yeah, it's always the eating out, or actually like the grocery bill as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, they don't really track their I'm like, again, I'm super nerdy about this stuff. So like, I, to the penny, like I know where my money goes. My wife and I both know where our money goes. A lot of people don't realize how much they spend on groceries and then eating out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that I could say for myself for sure. That's the kind of guilty pleasure, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
like if I get a little extra money, it's like I want to take my girlfriend out to eat.
Yeah,
and like I know sometimes it's not the best choice, but it's also like
you gotta live life too.
Well, you gotta have some fun, you know. Yeah. And I was thinking about the technology. I've felt it just with like how good my bank is doing my taxes as like a contractor. And it's like, dude, I don't even have to do anything anymore. Yeah. They track everything, put it into categories, and then like for business expenses, it's so easy now. So I think with the technology, it's kind of hard to like not do your finances 100%. Or at least be aware, because like even your bank can tell you how much you're spending on gas or whatever it be.
Like if you're not doing it, you're just being negligent.
Yeah, it's right it's there. Really if you have a bank account, they have online banking and they can 100%. Give you a ton of information. And that's like an interesting transition that's probably happened in the last 30 years, right? Like people used to like balance a checkbook. Yeah. Like I'm just old enough and my girlfriend's a little bit younger than me, and like I don't think she's written a check. Yeah. And like I wrote checks for paying rent for years, you know, and got paid in checks and deposited checks and that kind of thing. And like I feel like the old school checkbook balancing is kind of completely unnecessary nowadays, right? You just do it all online. It's so much easier. So I feel like the technology is helping, but you know, I guess some people just caught up in the lifestyle. It seems like a lot of what you're arguing for is people in whatever it is, like whether it's going out to eat too much, it's like living above their means. Yeah. And then just like finding a compromise with them of like, if you want to have like a better financial situation, you got to give up things in your life.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm, you know, like there's like a spectrum to how intense people can be with their finances. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Dave Ramsey. No. He's like old school, pretty big in the personal finance space, but he's very like, his big thing is like rice and beans. Like that's all you can eat if you're trying to get out of debt. You never see his big saying is like, you never see the inside of a restaurant unless you work there. You know, that's very extreme on one end. And then you could be like super loose on the other end, right? Like I like to find somewhere, maybe not necessarily right in the middle, like maybe a degree closer to being extreme. But for me, it's like if someone's going to hire me to help them with their finances, I want to make sure that they succeed with that. You know, and so I don't want to give them a plan that on paper looks perfect, but is super unsustainable or super difficult for them to actually keep up with. And so typically what I see is like, all right, let's figure out how much you need to spend to get through the month, right? Like making sure all the necessities are covered, like your phone, your internet, everything, right? Like things that you have to pay. And then what could be put towards making progress with your finances? Like, let's say you had an extra $1,000 if you cut everything. Like, all right, let's give you like a little buffer, right? Like if you go full cold turkey, like spending is very emotional, you know, like you said, it's like part of my lifestyle. Like I want to be able to enjoy life. If you just cut that out, like you're going to hate life, and making progress is going to be so difficult, you know? So if we can give you a little bit of leeway where you can have the opportunity to make the right decisions, I find that people have more success with that. You know, it's like, all right, out of the $1,000, maybe you give yourself $100 a month. And it's like, you know what? I got to choose, like, this is the weekend I want to spend that.
And that's kind of where I've been at lately, where it's like, we get one good date.
Yeah. There you go.
Like one good one. And then like, sometimes we got to pick maybe not the nicer places.
100%. You know? And that's sustainable, right? Like you're like, all right, this is just a little uncomfortable, but I can still make progress with that. You know, like if you're just running into a brick wall every time, like it's going to suck, you know? And I find that people are more likely to like take 3 steps back with doing a plan like that, where like they cut everything out. Like, dude, on paper, it totally makes sense. But like everything on paper, like if people followed that, they wouldn't be in debt. Like they'd have their savings built up. Like they'd have no spending issues. Like people, we're emotional beings, like creatures of habit. Like if you're used to spending your money a certain way, completely changing that is really difficult. And like you do need to go a little extreme, but like you also need to be able to live in this space. If you're trying to get out of debt, for example, maybe 2 or 3 years, and if it's super unsustainable, that's going to be a very difficult 2 or 3 years.
A lot of what you're describing, I help a lot of people lose weight.
Yeah.
And mostly just through being their coach and just kind of checking up on them and stuff. And it sounds so similar.
Dude, yes.
Where, you have the ideal diet or you have the ideal workout program. And like you take a sedentary person with a horrible diet, you could give them the nutrition plan and the workout program, but that lifestyle is so drastically different than what they're accustomed to that it's just too far of a jump to make, right? And I could see that same thing with finances. As people are like, all right, I hit my rock bottom, I'm going to change, but they don't have the habit set and they don't have the lifestyle, and it's just like too much to change at once. And that's where I encourage people on the weight loss side is like find stuff that you can actually achievable goals or habits that you can start adding to your routine, and then over time that'll start making the other changes easier.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's funny because most people don't think of these as being related, but I think you have to dig into the same like part of your mind to make progress with your finances as I think you do with your fitness. It's like you have to completely change your habits if you want to become healthier, if you want to lose weight. Like you have to fully change your lifestyle, and you can't hate that whole journey. Because like if you hate the process of getting out of like going from obese to being in shape, like you're not going to make progress. Or if you get on some super unsustainable diet, you might stick with it for a week, but can you stick with it for a year plus? Like, can you actually make this your change in how you eat? Like I think those two areas are super related. And I think like your brain has to make the same kind of like connections to see progress with those for sure.
What do you think about, like the changes in the economy and AI stuff and people talking about like universal basic income? Do you, from like the finance perspective, think that like these people that maybe live closer to like how I live, do you think that if they got universal basic income, it would benefit their finances? Or do you think without the habits that it would be kind of like they'd be stuck in the same loop?
Yeah, universal basic income is an interesting one because like on the one hand, it's like, is automation and AI going to like take away jobs? Probably. And what are you going to do with millions of people? Like, okay, when truck driving becomes automated and you no longer need truck drivers, there's millions of people who have held up like the US economy and like livelihoods of America for so long. What do you do with those people? Like what do you give them to say, hey, sorry, like the companies tell them like, hey, sorry, like we're going to just replace you with something that we don't have to pay anymore.
We have a Tesla truck now and it does everything on its own.
Yeah. Like what do you do at that point? So like I see like the practical side of it, but then on the other side of it as well is like, dude, if you start giving people money for doing nothing, like what is it? What are you rewarding?
Yeah.
And that's the other side that I'm like, you can't reward behavior that's counterproductive to living in a flourishing society,
Yeah. And even without the rewarding, like you said, I feel like in America, we have like low financial literacy. And I feel like if you just gave the general population in America basic income and no financial literacy, then like, I just think a lot of poor people would remain poor, even if you gave them $1,000, $1,500 extra bucks a month.
It's like what we saw during COVID. Like, where did most of the money, the stimulus checks, where did most people spend them? Like most people didn't like, okay. And
alcohol.
Okay. Yeah. Like this might be an oversight by me, or I don't know. I guess I haven't really looked at the numbers, but I think the majority of people who got those stimulus checks, like, did it go towards like paying your rent and your food, or like, did it go into because like we also saw during that period, people built up their savings to the highest amount, like, in years, so like most of that money, you can make the conclusion, went into people's savings. So did they really need it, And so I don't know, you kind of, it's a slippery slope because like there are definitely people who will be like, I don't know, damaged by like the automation and AI, but then to say like, all right, if you make a certain income and below, like you'll just get universal basic income. It's like, okay, well then maybe I don't want to earn more because I can get $1,000, for free basically every single month.
So now I'm kind of piecing it together. You pretty much work for yourself then.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, dude. You were talking about it before we got started, and I was like, I don't know if the last time I had like a regular job was like when I was 15 and I was selling t-shirts at the gym. Like that was it. Like I was getting a paycheck, ever since college. Like I did freelance media, like creating YouTube videos for people, Instagram content. And then since then, like that's all I've done.
Yeah. So with that, we trained together at Fight Factory, right? When did you join there?
March. Yeah, is when I got started there.
So just this year.
Yeah.
So I imagine with being able to be your own boss and you like training jiu-jitsu, it sounds like you do a lot of other, CrossFit or some other kind of workout, right? So what's like your lifestyle like working on your own? You just kind of manage your own clients, get your work done. I know you have a podcast as well.
Yeah.
So that's something that we care a lot about, kind of going back to the whole thing of I wanted to do jiu-jitsu because I didn't want to have a 9 to 5 and I didn't want to be locked into what I think of as maybe like a understimulating or boring lifestyle, So do you feel like you get that same with what you do?
My wife, she works for the state of Texas. And before that, she worked for our local county when we lived in California. And so like, she's had very like traditional jobs, and she'll come home and like, vent about work. And I'm like, dude, I don't think I could physically do that. Like, it would just like be, it would be difficult for me to like try to succeed in roles like that. Cause I would want to like if I see something that's inefficient, I'm like, dude, I just want to change it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why am I going to do that? You can't do that in a job where people have been there for, 30 years and they're about to hit their pension retirement. And like, it's just the way it is,
There's politics involved.
Yeah. Like the politics of it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I would succeed in a role like that. But at the same time, you trade that for having like security and stability.
Yeah.
Like my income has never been consistent on a monthly basis. And so it's definitely been an advantage that my wife makes a steady paycheck every single month. And so we can, build off of that. Right. That's been helpful for sure. But yeah, I don't know that I could succeed in a role like that. I would just find it difficult, and I'd find myself clashing with the expectations of a role like that.
Yeah. So did you start training before you had come out to Texas?
Yeah, I started August of 2024.
Okay.
So it's been like a year and
a little over
months.
a year.
Yeah. I started in California, and then we moved in January, and again, like self-employed. So my insurance was tied to my wife's job. And so when we moved, there's like it's super crazy. That's a whole nother conversation, but we didn't have insurance for a couple months, health insurance. I was like, all right, I should probably not be doing jiu-jitsu. I'm a white belt. Like, it's very likely that I could hurt myself more than someone else is going to hurt me.
Yeah.
So I stopped until March. She got her insurance. I was like, cool. Like, I want to hop in.
That was when you started.
And then I just so happened to be like down the street from Fight Factory when we lived in our apartment. And I was texting my buddy who's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu now. He's like, dude, that's one of like the best gyms in Texas. I was like, awesome. It was down the street. They have a great schedule. So cool.
Do you remember your first day
here at
Fight Factory?
It's funny. I showed up to the 11 a.m. thinking it was going to be gi, and I brought my gi, and they're like, no, it's wrestling. And I was like, oh, sick. Okay.
Nice.
Haven't done wrestling since like middle school. So it was a good time though. It was fun. Everyone was super welcoming. I think,
I was about to say, were either of us there?
You might have been there. I think you were there because I think I talked to you after in like the locker room, and I was like, I was talking to you, had your camera, and I was just making conversation about that. I was like,
I remember that.
I used to do that kind of stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Sick.
So what made you want to start training jiu-jitsu August or whatever you said of 2024? Like what? And I guess you just dropped that you previously wrestled.
So, like middle school, I wrestled for like a year. Yeah.
But that is grappling.
Yeah.
And I mean, wrestling at that age will make an impact on you 100%. As an adult. Doing jiu-jitsu.
It's funny because so many people are like, have you wrestled before? I'm like, not since like, I was like, what, 12? But I don't know if either of you are familiar with Jason Kalipa. He's like an old OG CrossFitter.
CrossFit guy?
Yeah, OG CrossFit guy. He's also like a purple or a brown belt now in jiu-jitsu. He's super legit. My brother actually went to high school with him. That was like the first CrossFit gym. Like, I've known him since I was like 14 years old, like doing CrossFit with him. I was doing content for him and his businesses for the last couple years. And he had always been like, dude, you got to do jiu-jitsu. He's like, you got to get into it. Like every time we'd film, he would be talking about it, like trying to get me to do it. And he had always said, it's like, and now I understand this is like a pretty common saying, but it's like human chess, And so finally I was like, you know what, let me just give it a shot. And like, that has been like the most like fun I've had since like I first started CrossFit. And like, I don't know, I've had a very interesting relationship with like fitness and stuff. Like I don't like going to just like the gym, like the regular, like I had a 24-hour fitness membership for a long time. Like I hated going. But CrossFit was fun because you're doing like stuff. I'm like, that looks cool and it's fun to do and it's different every single day. Jiu-jitsu is very similar like that. It looks badass. It's really fun and it's totally different every single day that you do it. So I don't know, that was like really what drew me to it once I got started. But it was basically like peer pressure that got me into the first time. And then after that, though, I was like, I totally get it now.
Got him.
Yeah.
No, and it gets so addicting, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of my notes and just kind of going back to like the jiu-jitsu athletes themselves are going to follow like me, right? You're either teaching or maybe you're lucky enough that you have sponsorships and maybe you get like some paychecks from super fights.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about especially being in Austin post-pandemic, we had like Kingsway, which was like New Wave, and then B-Team, which is now Simple Man Martial Arts. So we had an influx of athletes at Fight Factory, but both teams moved to Austin. And with that came kind of like a flood of want to be professional grapplers.
Yeah.
And just a ton of guys like me. I mean, I would say I moved back in 2020. I would say 2021, 2022,
Really
even
blew
more
up,
people moved in. And there's just kind of this stereotype of the jiu-jitsu bum, and they're sleeping on people's couches and they just like want to make it so bad in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But there's not really an outlet. Like you're not really going to make it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's kind of this false promise that a lot of particularly like the younger grapplers get, and sometimes even older guys, where they think that they can like make this career in jiu-jitsu. And I think that there's a lot of delusion with it. I've been able to kind of get my own career going, but it wouldn't be just from jiu-jitsu, right? Like same thing, doing video work for other people outside of it. And then, you know, expanding into like the general content world. So I was just curious what you thought of like the guys that commit their life to jiu-jitsu, and you know, I still see them. Some of these guys have quit really good jobs to chase this dream of being a grappler, you know? So what would you advise to those kind of guys that have this like lofty dream of becoming a professional athlete, but like what could they do in practical terms to be able to kind of make it make sense?
Nate's gonna be like, guys, don't.
Yeah, right.
Dude, if you got no responsibilities, like no financial obligations, like who am I to say don't follow your dreams, you know?
Right.
At the same time, does it make financial sense? No, right? Could you set yourself in a position where you're like, all right, I want to give this a full shot for a year, like, and obviously a year's not enough time to become good at jiu-jitsu, but maybe you've trained for a while and you're like, all right, I see some potential in me. Maybe my coaches see some potential. I want a full year of like really giving this a shot to see, can I become really good, at least in like maybe the belt you are or whatever, right? What would be good in progress in terms that you can make in a year? Like, could you set yourself up to do that? Absolutely. You know, do I think it's a smart financial move to like leave a job that's well paying or whatever to go pursue something that like, even if you're great at it, people don't make like, very few people make great money from it, you know? Like, it's similar to like CrossFit. Like I was like all about CrossFit from when I was 15 to like 22. And I was like, I'm going to be like a CrossFit Games athlete. Like I'm all about it. And it's like, dude, unless you get sponsors, unless you meet, like you make the right connections, or unless you're really, really good, like you're not going to make an income from it. Like you would have to go into the route of becoming good enough to have a recognizable name and then opening a gym. And then like you're, you know, a full-time coach or something. That would be a very, you know, very promising route. Right. But to think like that you're going to be like the next biggest athlete in whatever sport, like the percentages are just working against you. You know, does that mean you can't do it? No, but like if you're going to do it, like you got to go about it a smart way. And you also got to look at the rest of your life. Like, do I have other financial obligations? Like, do I have kids? Do I have a mortgage? Do I have things I have to take care of? Like, if you do, like, there's probably a smarter way to go about it, you know?
Yeah, no. And I think that's, I think that lifestyle, like you said, it's definitely best for like a younger guy.
Yeah.
Give yourself that chance. And I was that guy too. I mean, before I started college, I kind of gave myself that run, right? I was like competing in Muay Thai, competing in Jiu-Jitsu. I thought of myself like, oh, maybe I'm going to go to the UFC one day. And it's like, once I hit like 18, I realized like, oh, there's levels to this. And maybe one day, but then like as injuries started happening, I was like, oh yeah, I need to focus on the coaching side. And like, again, for me, choosing the coaching route is kind of like the classic one, more so on like opening a gym, right? Maybe in jiu-jitsu, you get big enough that you can open a gym and then people will come to you. And that's really the main way jiu-jitsu guys kind of get out. Yeah. Right. And then the last couple of years have been cool because we had like the $2 million prizes at CJI 1. And then for every competitor that showed, they paid $10,000. Wow. And that was putting pressure on the ADCC tournament. And I don't know if you know the details of like ADCC is every 2 years and they were hosting an event. And then Craig Jones started CJI, the Craig Jones Invitational, and he did it on the same weekend in Las Vegas to compete with ADCC. And ADCC only paid like, I want to say it was like $10,000 for the absolute champion.
Wow.
So that's like the open weight class winner. And then you didn't get show money. And so Craig's whole thing was like, he just felt like it was crazy to the athletes that they were putting these big events on and they weren't even getting show money. Right. And so he challenged them by creating the same event the same weekend, offered $10,001 to every athlete. So he's paying you to show $1 more than like the absolute champion would get. And that's where Andrew and William were the first two that had won trials for the qualifier for that year's ADCC. And then they abandoned ADCC to do the Craig Jones because they were two young professional athletes and both of them couldn't win the absolute division. So when they're looking at like, even if they both win their weight class, maybe one of them could possibly win the absolute, but it's still basically not as much as just going to show up at CJI. And then CJI was way more incentivizing because the prize was $1 million. Yeah. So that was a big deal because ADCC did give show money. I can't remember what they ended up doing. I think it was like $2,500 or something. But then everyone that competed in ADCC that year got $2,500.
Nice.
Almost most of the ADCC brackets, or a good chunk of them, got pulled to CJI. Yeah. So then all those athletes got 10 grand. And then all of the replacement athletes that ADCC had to get also got their $2,500. Nice. So that was 2024 August, I want to say. And so that was a big change in the professional jiu-jitsu where promoters kind of had to start paying more. And it pushed like the Craig Jones and the Gordons where like it's even more expensive to get them. And then even on that kind of next tier of athletes, like it's going to cost you 10 grand to get some of these guys to fight. So it's been cool that it gets the jiu-jitsu athletes paid a little bit more, but it's still like a couple of guys, a couple of promotions. There's not that much opportunity out there. So I'm happy to see that like the UFC BJJ kind of started as a result of that ADCC versus CJI. They seem to have sat back and watched the drama unfold. And they took a lot of what CJI did that was different, right? They did the pit for the first time. And then they went back to a rule set that very few grappling organizations had done up to that point, which was like the rounds and a 10-point must scoring system. So you do like 5 minutes, 1 minute break, just like an MMA fight. And then they created their bowl instead of the pit. Yeah. So it seems like they just took all of it and then are paying more athletes, you know? So I think there's a lot of arguments going on, and I'd love your perspective on this side is like these athletes that are, you know, getting contract work. There's exclusive contracts and then there's like one fight contracts. And someone like Craig Jones is telling all the athletes like, don't sign these exclusive contracts where you're tied in with one organization. But I know and work with a lot of these athletes and they're young and they don't have consistent money and there's not a consistent paycheck. And their argument's like, look, I can somewhat rely on this, you know, and instead of just being like kind of how we have to live where it's like you're a contractor, you make it your own way. So what do you think that is better for the athletes? Do you think they should renegotiate for each fight to try to get more value for their time competing? Or do you think like maybe the exclusive contract's a little smarter to get consistency?
I mean, Juice, maybe you could speak to this as well. I found that like being a freelancer, like I could see some parallels there. Like what, in my perspective, what was better? Was it getting a retainer client on a monthly basis who was like, you know, maybe this was $1,500, which that could be great money or not great money for whoever, you know, depends on who you are. But like it's a $1,500 consistent income. Or you could pursue like individual projects that might pay $2,500, $3,000, $4,000, but they're very inconsistent. You know, like which is better? Like when I was trying to grow my business as a freelancer, dude, getting retainer clients was like huge because it provided that stability. But where there's not maybe a parallel is like I could then use that stability as a platform to grow and find, you know, now I didn't need to find a one-off client so consistently. I could search for those like really great opportunities and then like I'd make my money there, you know? So it's tough. Like it would really depend. Like, and again, it goes back to like, what is your financial obligations look like? You know, if you're just a young guy and you really think you got a shot at this, like, and I think you got to have like a coach in your corner who can really tell you like, dude, yeah, you got a shot. Like maybe keeping those the one-off contracts where you could kind of negotiate as the value of the sport increases, as your value as an athlete increases, that could be a really great opportunity if you don't have the obligations on the other side of that. You know, if you do though, and you need to bring in money, like I could see the value of going with a contract that pays you out. I don't know if it's consistently or semi-consistently, but like you know money's coming.
Yeah, or at least it's guaranteed to get some matches.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas like even if you have a good brand, like maybe you just go through a slump and nobody hits you up, or maybe the guys in your
100%.
category are injured and there's just not like a good matchup
Yeah.
to be made. Yeah, I think the idea of like becoming a professional jiu-jitsu athlete is something that in the future will just kind of fall to the kids that start competing young enough,
yeah.
and then they become professionals closer to 18.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like it takes so long to get good at it. And I think like doing that as an adult, unless if you're a professional athlete from something else where you're really gifted physically, I think it's going to be pretty hard to like make a crossover as an adult. Yeah. Yeah. So I think like it's just going to be hard to keep up with those guys. But I like what you're saying, because I think Craig Jones is like one of the better examples where I think he is a like media guru, right? I think that guy markets himself arguably better than anybody else in jiu-jitsu. And I know that he was one of the first guys to just get significantly more for show money.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to encourage these other guys to do it. And I did feel like a little bit of that was like not obtainable advice for these guys, because they didn't do what he had done. Yeah. They're not like this super captivating personality who is hilarious and willing to like go to the Philippines and like have a reel of like a lady boy taking their clothes off, right? Like whether that's good or bad, like it's engaging, you know? So yeah, that guy's going to draw eyes to the event if you put him on there, but who else has that negotiating power?
Yeah.
Right. Unless if you're Gordon Ryan, there's just not the same level of it. So I think when he's telling guys like, nah, you got to go to stand up for yourself and argue, it's like the promoter's still going to try to like get you for the cheapest price they can, and they'll replace you. Yeah. You know? So unfortunately, the promoters in the sport have a ton of leverage over the athletes, because it's such a cool opportunity to get any kind of paid match, you know? And like at the beginning, you just have to take whatever you can get. And then even if like you're a bigger name, it is extremely challenging to like make your case of why you deserve more, you know? So I think like, unfortunately for the jiu-jitsu guys, you pretty much have to do some kind of social media.
Oh, 100%.
Or else you're not going to be able to like negotiate.
Yeah,
you know?
I was going to say, and it's very similar in like the CrossFit world. Like, and that's like the background that I know. Like, unless you, like most of the athletes who did really well in CrossFit came from another sport, whether it was gymnastics or weightlifting or track or whatever. They were already gifted athletes. And so making the transition into CrossFit, they were going to be a gifted athlete for sure. But like, what you see now is like people can be more successful in the CrossFit space if they have a good following than if they are a great athlete, you know? And I imagine it's the same, like for many sports. Yeah. You know, like if you have the personality, you can make good content, engaging content, people like you, like, are you going to get sponsors? Probably. Are you like a great athlete? Maybe not the best, but like you don't have any personality, you have no social media like presence, you're not going to get anything. You know, your best shot would be being the best at that sport. And that's a very slim chance.
Yeah. No, you see it like, you know, Shanji Hibero. So he's got 6 Blades not too far from us at Fight Factory. He's like kind of like a Hall of Famer type grappler. Sure. I mean, world champion in the gi and competed at ADCC a bunch of times, just like crazy highlights, just like an absolute legend in the sport. And he has this upcoming match on Flow Grappling's Who's Number One against like a YouTuber. Oh, nice. And not that the guy that he's competing against isn't good. It's just if you compare, like Shanji is one of the most well-established grapplers of all time, and he's going against a guy that got himself onto that card because he's got a great social media following, right? He's been making YouTube videos for a long time. I don't know how many subscribers he has, but in the last I saw it was like 80,000. So he's been able to leverage himself into this position where he's going to go get to compete professionally, and there's way more guys that are better than him, right? Like I know that there's guys that are out there that are better than him, but they aren't going to bring eyes to that event, you know?
It's just like Jake Paul, right? I always get confused with
but
it's the same deal. It's like, dude, like they were like stars on social media, and now he wants to go into boxing. It's like, dude, like he's gonna bring that fame with him, and now he's doing events where I don't even know how good or not good he is, but the promoters of that fight know if we bring him on, it's gonna be like a huge show, and he's gonna get tens of millions of dollars just for showing up. You know, it's like you got to have that presence behind you.
How good do you think he is?
Oh, coming from? He's great. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like he was already a gifted athlete, right? Him and his brother, I started seeing their content so long ago, so early on. They were probably like middle school, high school, or something like that, right? But by the time they had got into the whole boxing thing, it was just a matter of resources. Yeah, they had all the money to be able to get all the coaches and training partners and facilities that they needed. And kind of with the lifestyle of making content, they had plenty of time to train. Yeah. So for a couple of years, being able to just like train like a professional boxer with all the good coaching, like you're going to be able to make those strides coming from a background of being an athlete. Yeah. So they're actually really good. Cool. But I do have a little bit of a problem with where we're at with what I just described of like the influencers making their ways in the combat sports, because it's now turned to like, it just takes away from the real athletes. And so now I guess my encouragement for the real athletes is like, you still have to push your social media, because you have to compete with influencers that don't know how to fight. Like, you know, they know how to fight, but it's not the same as like some of the real competitors that have put in the work, and they're more skilled. Right. But again, it's just not in the promoter's incentive. If they can get some streamer to go do a boxing match, they're going to get way more views. They're going to pick that, you know? So it's just kind of a tough thing that I think combat sports is getting a little bit, especially boxing. I think boxing is the one combat sport right now that's kind of getting a little stain on its name of like, boxing used to be America's sport in a way, or at least used to be a big deal. And I would say like the 90s, that kind of died out, and it's been in a really rough spot since the 2000s. And then the biggest growth we've had is putting a legend like Mike Tyson against an influencer, you know? So there's not, to me, it just takes away a little bit of the integrity of the sport, because we're not putting the best boxers out there. We're 100%. Putting like who's the most popular. And basically I'm seeing that in jiu-jitsu now too, right? Like I said, there's other people that are, you know, arguably skill set wise, maybe deserving those shots, but they just can't bring the views. So they're going to bring in the influencers. So that's kind of an unfortunate thing, but I guess it's just kind of the world we live in, that you got to make content and you got to be able to attract people's attention.
Yeah, you got to be able to play both sides of the game, like the skill level of the sport, but also like appealing to the promoters and the people who are going to pay out, you know, in that sport.
Yeah, and I would say like we know some people, like we talked about that with Jackson. He's a good example where as a young teenager, he was putting out a lot of content and laying that foundation, and he's kept up with the content, where now he's an extremely skilled MMA fighter, but he also has like a good audience, you know, and that's definitely the right way to do it. Yeah. But I mean, you could definitely speak to this. Like where do you even begin on promoting yourself online? You know, well, all three of us do it, and it's a grind, you know, and it's not easy. And I'm sure we've all seen the people that give up, right? Like you maybe tie it back to the finance or something, but everybody's like, all right, I'm going to make change. I'm going to start posting, you know, and I've even done it myself. I've been making content now for like almost 4 years. And I've had slumps, times where maybe 6 months, and I post maybe a couple videos on all platforms combined, right? And there was some of those times that I got so discouraged that I was like, man, am I done? Am I going to stop? But then you have the other times where you're super consistent, you know, and you can see that growth from it. So it's an influencer's world now. I don't know. I feel like the content creation is like one of the few things that the AI stuff is. I guess we'll see what happens, because my assumption is that the AI videos are going to be like you can't tell the difference.
Dude, there's some that I see now that look like security footage or whatever. I'm like, if someone in the comments didn't say this is AI, I'd be like, dude, I don't know. And now obviously there's still some ridiculous stuff out there. You're like, okay, obviously that's AI. But
yeah, like, bro, cats shooting fucking AKs. Sick.
Yeah, and I mean,
the doorbell.
What blows my mind with that stuff is how I used to be able to have the eye for it.
Yeah.
Right? There would be tells.
Yeah.
And it's just so quickly that stuff's going away. And what cracks me up now is the people that like put I don't know how you do it. I'm not into technology like that, but like.
No, you're not.
No, but they'll like, I guess just like upload a few selfies or the pictures of themselves. And then they'll ask like Sora, be like, all right, now here's my dog. Can you have my dog like smoking 5 cigarettes at once? You know, and it's just like someone's dog just doing weird shit like that, you know? And they're good. Yeah. Like another one of my friends posted one recently, and it was just like a woman throwing a fit in a restaurant, and it was all fake, but it was like, dude,
that looks legit.
That looks pretty good, you know? So I actually get concerned for like when we hit that point where it's indiscernible. Yeah. What are we going to do?
Dude, I think it's so concerning for like the world of politics as well. Like when are you going to be able to know if a politician actually said this or not? Or like you see a video of them doing something like that puts a bad light on them, like, was that real? And then they're going to claim, no, it was just AI. And then the other person can claim, no, it's real. Like, what do you do at that point when you can't tell the difference? I think that, I mean, I'm not one to say like, oh, we should have more government regulation, but like, there's also like such a high potential for damage to society that I'm like, dude, at some, and maybe this is the responsibility of like those companies where it's like, you got to be able to know like in like the source of the video, like this was generated somehow by AI, you know, I don't know. Like, and that maybe that's it, you know, maybe it's just like when you look at the details of the video, like the data of it, like the metadata or whatever, I'm not even smart enough to know, but it says like, this is built by AI.
I feel like X is the only platform I'm on that even lets me know.
Yeah.
Right? Like Instagram has always been like the Wild West of content, and they just kind of let anything be on there.
I know Instagram does have like a tag or something, like made with AI or something, but it's up to the poster to use it.
That's what I'm saying.
And if you can't tell, the platform's algorithm is not going to know, you know, like
right.
And like I'm
just over here looking for like the Sora watermark.
Yeah, and then they blur it out now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I didn't even notice.
And like we're adults, we came up in a little bit of different technology, so we didn't have this problem when we were kids.
Yeah.
What do you tell a kid? What do you tell a kid on like, oh, that's fake. That's AI.
Like, what do you mean?
But they don't even know, like some of them are young enough, they're living in this world of AI and they're so young they don't even know what AI even stands for. Yeah. But they know that there's fake stuff and real stuff. And it's just getting so hard to tell the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind because like being a jiu-jitsu coach, I don't feel like there's a way that AI can take my job, at least for a really long time. And like, what is the replacement for me of like a hologram jiu-jitsu teacher or the most terrifying, which is like some kind of jiu-jitsu robot?
Dude.
Yeah, what was that
Now
one?
we're just talking about the Terminator movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What was the I think it's called like Robot.
The robot is sick, dude.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
I mean,
I
it's
really
not like
one.
a teacher or a coach by any means, but it gives you breaky
Well,
feedback,
and
which is kind of cool.
Think about where AI was at when that was probably designed, right? That was probably designed like closer to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Before it was like where it's at now, where it's at kind of out there.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's just a little bit of like a feedback tool, but we're absolutely at the point where if Elon Musk wanted to, he could probably make like Robot 2.0.
That,
you know what I mean?
Gives you some play.
Dude, but like that kind of
terrifying.
starts that whole like, again, Terminator kind of question of like a robot that actually knew how to strangle somebody. Like that terrifies me. You know, I mean, we're already seeing it with like warfare with drones and stuff.
It's the important part.
Yeah, like
it's like thinking about brakes on a car. Like, don't just be going fast.
Yeah, like that kind of on like a moral side from the designers. It's like maybe you don't make the robot 2.0 that can fight back. Like, what?
Dude, it's a hard conversation because at one point you put too much limits and things aren't going to evolve, but then on the other, there's also a responsibility side to it too. It's a crazy conversation, you know?
Do you have any? I mean, I was mentioning how good just like banking apps are and stuff. Is there any kind of like AI in the finance world that's making any kind of changes?
I've seen people that I follow. I don't even know how to do it, but they make like their own GPTs. I don't really know how that even works, but they're like, download this one, and it's like, I guess like curated for finance. ChatGPT is free. Like you can just go to the website and use it, you know? I mean, you can have a membership if you want like more advanced features, but like you can use ChatGPT to like figure out everything with your finances. And the part, what you were saying, like, I don't think anyone's going to replace like, you know, a jiu-jitsu coach. It's like, that's a conversation that I have too, is like, okay, like right now AI could totally replace like what I do. But like, dude, you could go to ChatGPT and figure this shit out in like an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And I always tell people with their finance, and this is true, is like the financial stuff, it's not like it's complicated. Like it's pretty simple stuff when you really get down to the weeds of like, how do I take control of my finances? It's just not easy to do. And like no amount of like understanding or AI teaching you is going to get you through like the hard part of actually doing it. And like trying to differentiate myself, it's like, all right, that's the part that I got to focus on, is like the habit side, the behavior side, like teaching someone. You know, it's the same thing with fitness. It's like, dude, like you can go on ChatGPT and figure out like what's the perfect diet for me.
Sick
like
ass program.
Yeah, what's the
You're
right
like,
program?
You're just reading it like, yup, there it is. That's a recipe for success,
I'm gonna
baby.
get jacked right there. But
I'm out here eating fucking out of my tiramisu drawer.
Yeah, but like, but it's a coach that's actually going to help you like stick with it, you know?
Well, and you know, like my brother, he did the same thing for his program and has gained like a ton of muscle mass. And it was like prompted something like, give me like Mike Israetel's take on how to grow muscle, program it out for 6 weeks or whatever. Right. And he had just enough like to go do the thing, you know? So yeah, it can be an amazing tool if you're willing to put in the work. But I think kind of for both of us, like the coaching side helps a ton, where it's like you got to work with the actual behavior and make changes there. So I feel like we're still just like scratching on the surface where we don't even know all of the things this stuff is going to do for us. And like, that's why I'm enjoying doing this, because maybe we're going to have to compete with an AI version of myself, but at least this is like something a little bit more real, because I mentioned on another one, but it's like, there's more AI stuff out there now than there is real stuff. And it's just going to keep going that way. And I am hoping, like, I've been saying this about jiu-jitsu for a while, but with all this AI stuff and how easy it can be to just like work from home and have AI automate your life in a ton of different ways, you don't really have to like leave your house anymore. Yeah. You know? And I feel like jiu-jitsu is a cool thing that makes people get out of their house. I feel like there's quite a few guys maybe at Fight Factory where like they don't really do much, but they at least go to the gym, you know? And I feel like as whether UBI kind of hits or not, as people lose their jobs from AI, I feel like they're going to be like, man, I got to go hang out with some people. I got to go do some fitness. And at least jiu-jitsu is like, you're checking a bunch of boxes at once, right? You're learning a skill, you're hanging out with people, you're getting fit. And those are the few places that I don't think AI will compete. But man, I feel like so many industries, like you're talking about financial help, but like attorneys. Like
same deal.
I feel like the language models are probably more efficient than a human.
Even like a primary care provider, like you go in, they're gonna ask you a couple questions and then write you a prescription. Like that can be done by now. Obviously, a surgery that I'm sure we're years away from that, but like I don't know. Like the attorney's a good one too. Like yeah.
I like to think that this will be difficult to be replaced.
Yeah, I think it's my position is like, who cares if it's bad, if it's real? Because there's just going to be so much that's like not fake, but it's just not human stuff. And so I feel like we are somewhat of like a pack animal, and we got to have communities. And even though like you could have AI take care of everything, like you're still a physical being at the end of the day, and you got to do something with that. So I'm interested to see what kind of like hobbies come up, or like kind of going back to the pandemic. That was why I made the choice to do jiu-jitsu. It was that like everything closed down, and this was just my take on it, seeing people's YouTube videos, was I saw a lot of people trapped at home, not really worried about money because everything shut down. So I feel like we all just kind of made an agreement, like, okay, we're all taking a break for a little bit. And then you saw people really explore their hobbies again, and there was, to me, that spring of 2020, a lot of people questioning like, what am I really into? And maybe as the technology gets more and more part of our lives, that opportunity comes back where it's like, okay, things are kind of taken care of. You have a little bit more free time. What do you want to do? And that's where I hope people like make art or make music and stuff like that. But unfortunately, again, with the cushy life that technology makes, like, why learn an instrument when you can go have an AI,
fuck
play
that.
you whatever you want.
I want to learn an instrument. Somebody teach me piano, I'd be entirely grateful.
Violin.
GAMEPLAN. So we go.
Was there anything you picked up or got deeper into whenever the pandemic hit for yourself?
Nothing interesting. Nothing interesting. I remember my wife and we just watched a ton of shows. But speaking of what you're saying, like people picking up hobbies, like there was a point where it's like you just get bored of doing, like, most people, they'll come home from a long day of work and they'll want to watch a movie or shows or whatever as an outlet. During the pandemic, you can only do so much of that before you're just bored out of your mind. That's, I think, where people picked up the hobbies, tried new things, is like today, like it's hard to be bored because like if you're bored for 5 minutes, you just go on your phone and go on Instagram and scroll and you get that dopamine hit. But like until you're like really bored, you're not going to figure anything out. But I was learning like animation, like 2D animation, stuff like that. Now I just like, if I do like media stuff, it's like motion graphics that I use that as, but that was really it.
So why Texas?
I grew up in California like my whole life. I went to college down in San Diego. Like, I mean, there were parts about California that I absolutely love. But we also like want to start a family. Like, we want to start a family, and I'm like, all right, the path that I see towards us being successful with that is like, let's own a home. Like, let's get that life milestone out of the way. Not out of the way, but you know, we got to accomplish, in my mind, I wanted us to accomplish that life milestone so that we're in a good position when we want to have kids. And like Texas is like, it had a bunch of positives for us. One, obviously, like the practical side of it, it's like cheaper. Gas is like half the price. Housing's like a fraction of the price out here. But then also like, I don't know, like I grew up in East Side San Jose, which is a big, like, I guess you can call it a suburban city. It's like all the tech companies are in like Palo Alto and Los Gatos and like Mountain View up here. And then San Jose is like the massive city where like everyone lives. And it's like south of San Francisco. Like, I don't know. There was nothing like real special about living there. But then also when we came out to Texas, this is like a uniquely Texas thing. Cause we went to a few states to look for this. There's like a Texas pride that you don't get anywhere else. And like there are people
Stars
who love
at night, baby.
Yeah. There are people who love California, but you don't get like the like Texas or California themed everything, you know? Texas here, like everywhere you go, there is something Texas themed.
You gotta get you your Texas shaped waffle maker.
Yeah, dude. Anything, you know?
Hell yeah.
Sick.
There's just like that level of like pride and respect for where you live that like we didn't get in California. So I was like, you know, it's a refreshing feeling to come to a place where like people are all about the place they live and they love it. You know? And like that can go on totally different, you know, spectrums politically as well. It's like people still love Texas for being Texas.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a cool thing, you know? So it's cool to like be a part of that, I guess.
I feel like we're both pretty classically those people, right? I mean,
Texas?
Yeah, right? I mean, you're wearing the Buc-ee's hat.
Yeah,
That's like
seriously.
a huge Texas thing. And like, I guess I'm second generation Texan, but like my grandfather went to UT. So like he was here in Austin 75 years ago going to school, you know? And yeah, I'm definitely one of those like recklessly proud Texans, you know? And
I did go hunting for the first time this last weekend.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks to you though. So it's been a long time coming.
I'm definitely like a little stereotypical in those things, right? I've
sure,
gotten to have like the cool like upbringing in Texas with kind of like the hunting and fishing and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like a big deal here. But I also grew up here where like Austin's always kind of been, I mean, it's changed a ton, but the slogan used to be keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in a while now. And it's been, I think, kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Because that like weirdness of Austin was, you know, you got a giant red state and then a little blue city. And there was like a lot of attitudes in Austin that were very much different than the rest of the state of Texas. Yeah. But then at the same time, I spent a lot of time outside of the city being around like real Texans, you know? So I got a really, to me, a cool blend of like the traditional Texas and also Austin, which is like quite a bit different than most of the state. You know, it's kind of a unique city. Yeah, for sure.
That's what we really liked about Austin is like we were actually thinking of moving to Dallas. Like we like Plano. We went to downtown Plano, like found a little apartment. We like
that's where I was born.
Oh, nice, for sure. It's a cool little city. And you're out of like the big city of Dallas.
P-town.
I have a sister there, a brother there. But we previously were living in Santa Cruz, California, which is funny because they also have Keep Santa Cruz Weird. Like that's a thing.
Really?
There. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a small like surf town, but they have like the boardwalk there, which has got a bunch of amusement rides and all that. So like it's a very touristy city, but it's a small city and like I don't know, going from that where it's like you could go surfing and then go on a hike within the same hour. Like and there's massive like forest there. To go from that to Dallas was tough because Dallas is like sprawling city, you know? And so we were like, we loved it. Like we were all about Texas. We loved it. Like we felt like we loved like Plano, like the area where like, we could totally see ourselves here. And we looked at like places that we like, all right, if we bought a home, like where could it be? We were like ready to pull the trigger on it. And then my wife was like, you know, it just feels like it's missing something. So she's like, why don't we go down to Austin to check it out? Cause we had heard it's a little more like naturey, like you can do more stuff outside. And we came and like instantly I was like, all right, this is what was missing. You still get the Texas vibe, but you also get like the outdoorsy nature, things we were a little bit more accustomed to having lived in Santa Cruz for 4 years before.
Yeah, there's like a big fitness culture in Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like having the river downtown helps, right? Like
for sure.
Any given day you can go down there and see like tons of people kayaking and
running with
we
their
got
dogs,
like the Barton
everything.
Springs. That's like a kind of like a big thing. We got the Zilker Park race happen. So it does seem to have like a little bit more green space. Then like I went from here to Houston and that's where I went to school.
For sure.
And it was kind of rough for the same reason. Like Houston is a massive, flat metropolis.
Muggy.
Right?
Muggy.
Yeah,
Muggy.
super muggy. And there's just not that many parks.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can look at it on a map, like Google gives you the little green boxes where there's
not.
parks, and it's just like very little of that. And that was kind of a harder transition at the start. Eventually, I grew to love Houston. I think it's a super fun city. There's a lot going on there all the time. So it's kind of fun. And it's just got like, even more so than Dallas, but like kind of big city vibes, right? The rest of Texas is, especially as you go west, I mean, it's way different, right? But Houston's kind of like an East Coast city, right?
Really?
High pace, people are hustling, right? Like it's that kind of a culture, which was cool to see coming from here, where like I feel like Austin is so laid back, and so chill, and like now it's turned into like a tech hub, kind of seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So like I grew up in East Side San Jose, which if anyone's familiar with East Side San Jose, it's like that's like kind of like the East and South Side San Jose, or like kind of like the ghetto parts of San Jose. But I also, it's like East San Jose, but then I grew up in a place called the Foothills, so it's like right before the mountains start in San Jose. And so we grew up on like a little ranch, or I grew up on a little ranch. I think we moved there when I was like 2, and then we lived there until I was like 15 maybe. And so like I was used to being around animals. Like I would ride horses. Like I was used to like shooting guns and stuff, like doing stuff that's not the typical, like if you live in a big city in California experience. You know?
That none of that sounds like a typical Californian
100%.
to me.
But then like you drove 15 minutes and you were in like the sprawling suburbs, you know, massive cities. So like I kind of got like a little bit of both worlds, and that's what it felt like coming to Austin was. It's like you get like the big city vibe, but you can go 20 minutes outside of the city and like you can start to be out in the country a little bit, you know, which was cool because like we eventually want to like own some land and like have some animals. Like the way I grew up, like I would love to replicate that, like having ranch, having like, you know, just it's a different lifestyle, you know, growing up with animals and stuff. Like that's so cool. I think
I feel the exact same way. Can't wait to like teach my own kids one day, all that kind of stuff,
100%,
you know, because I think just growing up in the city. I want to go back to something real quick.
Sure.
Is CrossFit dying?
Ooh, I've been so out of the CrossFit space. I couldn't tell you like from like I guess that's a good way to think about it. I'm not interested in CrossFit as much anymore. And I don't know. I just
He said it's dead to me.
Yeah, I guess I'm like it's not as exciting as it once was. And I don't know if that's just my personal like what I find interesting evolving or not. But like I don't know, like I one of my friends, she's like got into CrossFit like 3 years ago or something, and she's like all about it. I'm like, yeah, I remember being
You're like
that.
I'm over that.
Yeah, no, like I remember being like that. Is it dead? I don't know. Like,
do you have opinions on like Hyrox? I know that's like a popular thing.
I think it's fun. It looks fun. It looks cool. People are like, Hyrox is CrossFit for non-CrossFitters. That's what I've heard. But Hyrox looks really cool. I think it's like a cool take on like functional fitness, you know?
Can I think of Hyrox as like CrossFit without the Olympic lifts?
That'd probably be a good way to look at it.
Without the Olympic lifts, without the gymnastics, maybe?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it for sure. I mean, there's a lot of like similar movements like you do, like burpee broad jumps. Like CrossFit's like the main thing that like people in CrossFit love burpees. Like that's what I grew up. I love burpees.
Nobody loves burpees, bro.
Dude, I love burpees.
Nobody loves burpees.
If I'm gonna do something like fitness wise, like I'll do burpees. I like burpees.
Fuck that.
But they got like the sled push, they got the rower, they got the wall balls. Like it's very CrossFit type, without being CrossFit.
From when you started, would you say that there was like the peak of CrossFit's popularity and like the CrossFit Games kind of being a big deal? Because from the outside, I've never done CrossFit and I've never really been in that world, but I remember seeing so many CrossFit gyms pop up, probably like the late 2000 teens.
Yes.
And now I feel like I don't meet anybody that like identifies as a CrossFitter, whereas like it used to be like, I do CrossFit, you know? So when do you think like the peak was? And do you have any explanations of why you think it kind of surpassed the peak?
I think in 2012, it was like really peaking. That's when like the CrossFit Games seemed like it was like the most legit to look at. Like it was on ESPN. It was at a massive stadium. Like they had these events that were just big scale events. And you were watching people do like high level gymnastics, like high level, like cardio, like, you know, they would run and then they would go weight lift and then they'd go push a sled. Like it was just like all over the place in terms of like capabilities of fitness. And then from 2012 until probably like 2018, I felt like it was really big. And I want to say it started to peak at like 2018. Yeah, maybe like 2020. I don't know what like caused it to go down though. Like they made some changes to like how the CrossFit so like there's CrossFit the methodology of like working out and exercising, and then there's CrossFit like the sport, like the CrossFit Games is a sport. Like those, a lot of people see like one and they think it's the same thing. Like those are two completely different.
Can you break that down? Because I honestly I'm not familiar with that.
When you look at CrossFit, the CrossFit Games, a lot of people look at that and they assume if I walk into a CrossFit gym, that's what I'm gonna get, and that's like watching someone compete at jiu-jitsu like at a high level and like black belts throwing each other and assume like if I go on my first class that's what I'm gonna get. But
Gotcha.
Instead what you get at Fight Factory is a coach is gonna go on the side with you and practice some like do like a forward roll, do a backwards roll, like how, can you fall correctly, you know, like if you go into a CrossFit gym, you're gonna get that level of like they're gonna break, if you go to a good CrossFit gym for sure, they're gonna break it down for you and make it very simple, and it's gonna be more about how do we get you doing movements that maybe you haven't done before that are going to contribute to your quality of life. Versus if you look at the CrossFit Games, it's just athletes wrecking their bodies in like a you know, that's the sport, you know, that's what it is. I think CrossFit athletes have like a shelf life because it just like it's crazy on your body, and like any high level athlete, you know, like you have a shelf life for sure. How much can your body take?
I have been to a few CrossFit gyms. I've done just a handful of sessions. And I guess I've never been to a good CrossFit gym because every time I go, I just jump into the workout with everybody else. I've never been pulled aside, and my mobility is ass. Like I can't Olympic lift. I can't snatch to save my life, you know?
I think to be fair, you are jacked as like shit. Do you walk into a gym, you look very fit, and like if you walk into a CrossFit gym and you look like how Juice looks right now, they're gonna assume you know what you're doing, and so they're probably gonna throw you in the middle. If you
I would do the exact same thing for sure.
Yeah. And but if you walk in and you're just like some normal look, like I don't know what normal means, but like, you know, like you're just some average person. You maybe did fitness when you were like younger, but like maybe you're a little bit older now. Like a good gym is probably gonna take care of you, and maybe that's where like my opinion's a little biased because I grew up going to what was NorCal CrossFit and evolved into NC Fit. That was like one of the premier CrossFit gyms in like the country, you know. When I like go to when I've gone to other CrossFit gyms, it's like, dude, like you compare that one versus you compare this one, it's like two totally different like worlds. But a good CrossFit gym would take care of you. They would do something similar to what they do at Fight Factory. They would make sure that you've gone through like the fundamentals, the basics. They're never going to throw you into a workout where you can't walk the next day. You know, they're going to make sure you take it easy and you do this because you enjoy it and it contributes to like your quality of life. But if you look at the CrossFit Games, like you're going to get a totally different picture of what it is to do CrossFit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do feel like maybe some of the methodologies, because I remember like I attach CrossFit to rhabdomyalgia.
Oh, I got rhabdo.
From CrossFitting?
Yes.
So
brown butter, baby.
I'm kind of answering my own question because I feel like from my perspective, as I started to see more people fall victim to that, and they'd get like a mom who's trying to get fit, run her through too aggressive of a workout, and then like get something like rhabdomyalgia. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the right way to work 100%. Out. And I feel like maybe part of like the drop off in popularity was people running into those problems and seeing that maybe the methodologies was like too much for the average person.
I think like it becoming more popular, like ESPN online, seeing people at a high level was probably a detriment to it because people assume that's what CrossFit is. And if I go into a gym, I'm going to just get absolutely smashed. You know, when I got rhabdo, what I got it from is because I did CrossFit from when I was 15. And like today I'll still do like functional fitness. I don't know if I do like CrossFit. I don't have a barbell at my house. Like I'm not like doing Olympic lifts, but like, you know, I'll still try to stay fit. But like I did CrossFit for a very long time. Like every single day I was going to the gym, I would do double sessions. Like I wanted to compete, you know, when I was younger. And then there was a period where I was like, I got burnt out. Like I'm tired of this. So I stopped doing CrossFit. I gained a ton of weight. Like I was not very healthy. And then I was like, all right, let me get back into this. So like I was like working out a little bit more, and I was like, cool, I'm going to sign up for the local gym. We had just moved to Santa Cruz. I'm going to sign up for one of the local gyms and go. And in my head, I was ready to go. My body was not there yet. So I hit a workout that I was like, I know when I was fit, I could have smashed this workout. Like it was in my wheelhouse. It was like kipping pull-ups, thrusters, and like kettlebell swings, which if you're a small guy is like easy for you to do. Those are all movements that are like benefit you being smaller. And in my head, I was ready to go. And so I just went for it. And like, I felt like I did great. And then literally afterwards, I could not go my arms from like this to straight. I literally could not extend them. And it was like, I think it was like a Thursday that I did that workout. And by Sunday, I was still like unable. I would literally have to pick up like 20-pound weights to open my arms all the way. And I was like, this feels like a problem. But I didn't have the other.
This feels like a
I'm
problem.
literally like in pain, like but I didn't have the other symptoms, which usually like your pee turns like Coca-Cola. That's one of the telling symptoms. It's like because
I like to say brown butter.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you said. Yeah. Because your muscles are literally failing. I think it's like muscle necrosis that happens. Like your muscles literally deteriorate and you pee that out. But that wasn't happening. My pee looked normal. And so I was like, you know what? And so I went to an urgent care and they're like, no, you're probably fine. I was like, dude, this does not feel fine. So I went to the ER and they were like, yeah, like your KC levels, I'm not a doctor. Your KC levels are supposed to be like low hundreds. Mine was like 50,000. And like that basically means how much of your muscles deteriorated inside of your bloodstream.
Right.
And so like mine was like way above where you're supposed to be. So I was like hospitalized for a week.
No way.
Yeah. For a week I was in I think
gosh.
from it was like a Monday to Friday kind of thing. But they were like, yeah, you can't leave the hospital. Like, we need to have you on IV to flush your system out. And they drew blood several times. It wasn't like crazy, but they were like, yeah, if you hadn't come in, like, you could have had like, I don't know, I think it's like kidney failures, like the worst you can get. But that I think is what happens is people were once very, very fit or like in good shape, and then they go try a CrossFit gym, and then it's maybe
thinking that they can hit that again.
And you mix that with maybe not the best CrossFit gym where coaches are just like all about, CrossFit the sport, but maybe not all about CrossFit the methodology.
Yeah.
And you combine both the like two bad things and you get a very terrible result where people get rhabdo.
Yeah. And now I'm wondering like how many people spend a week in the hospital with rhabdo from CrossFit? Probably a ton.
Can we break down rhabdo a little bit? You said like muscle necrosis or something like that.
From my understanding, it's basically like you damage your muscles so much that they break down. So like my biceps, and it's funny because like I feel like my arms were I was never jacked, like crazy jacked, but I felt like I had like like biceps. After that, like they were literally gone.
Oh,
like literally, like my arm from my my shoulder down to my forearm was like flat.
Damn.
And so like when it happened, I could not open my arms because my muscles had literally like broken down. Because if you do thrusters, you're going like this, your biceps are moving. You do pull-ups, and if you're trying to do them fast, it's you kind of do like it's a very bicep heavy. And then if you do kettlebell swings, same thing. If you're going fast, you're gonna rip that kettlebell up and down. It's gonna all be on your arms. So like my muscles had died, and then that gets into your bloodstream, which is bad for your kidneys. Yeah, because your kidney has to filter that out.
Shit, that's crazy. For some reason, I had always thought that rhabdo was just like you're just not hydrating, But I guess not.
No, and you're actually exactly right. Like it's too much protein in the blood. It's like
from the muscles, right?
Yeah, and that's like kind of what I heard from the first time. But the only side effect I really know is exactly what he described with the biceps.
Yeah.
So I met like Travis County sheriff's deputy maybe, and he worked with like one of their, I guess, like training teams for shooting and that kind of stuff. And we were doing like a shooting event together, and he had just come off of it, and it was from CrossFit, and he was saying the same thing. Like I guess for him it was the opposite. Like it wasn't that he couldn't extend his arms; it was like he couldn't close them, right? And so the side effects seem to be specifically with the bicep. I've never heard of other ones besides like with the pee and that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I know you just need like a lot I
just need to be like you need to flush your system and then hydrate like crazy. People are on like I was looking up. I love Reddit. People on Reddit were like, just eat a banana and like have some Gatorade and you'll be good. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I can't move my arms. Yeah, I can't do anything. It's funny that when I went in, the nurse was like, "Oh, she's like, did you do a push-up contest?" I was like, "What?" She's like, "We just had a firefighter in here who had rhabdo in his arms because he did a push-up contest at the firehouse." And I was like, "Oh no!" But the doctor was very much like what you had said. He was very much like against CrossFit. He was trying to convince me like you should never do CrossFit again. And I was like, I was stupid. It wasn't that CrossFit was stupid.
Yeah.
So I was really curious about this Hyrox thing. Hyrox doesn't stand for anything as an acronym. It's a brand name that fuses the words hybrid and rock star.
That's pretty cool.
And so it blends running with functional fitness, and the rock star aspect celebrates the athletes who compete in events. So that's a very interesting name.
Yeah, I could not have guessed that.
Like, I don't know if like if jiu-jitsu was like, I'm a rock star. I don't know if I'd like take pride in that. That's kind of crazy. But I would never advise, as like a jiu-jitsu or kind of MMA coach, I would never advise someone to do CrossFit for like their strength and conditioning
Sure, yeah.
as like a combat sports athlete. And that's just kind of with like what you said, is that mix between the philosophy of CrossFit versus like the sport. And maybe there's some middle ground.
Really?
Like
I think CrossFit wouldn't be bad, actually.
I think it just depends on like what he said, like what kind of gym are we talking about and what level of push, because I think like all the rhabdomyolysis problems for like a jiu-jitsu athlete, you're already using biceps heavy grappling, that like, I think that there's a risk for overtraining very quickly with like a CrossFit approach to strength and conditioning for combat sports athletes.
So it's
Whereas I think like the Hyrox, maybe slightly less rhabdomyolysis and maybe potentially more benefits. I don't even know anything about the Hyrox specifics though. I know that it's like 8-kilometer decathlon type thing.
It's like 8 1Ks, and in between you do an event. So one of those events may be like a 1K row, and then a 1K ski erg, and then 100 wall balls, and then a sled push or something.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because CrossFit used to be like, this is the thing you do if you want to be generally good at everything, every sport. So CrossFit was never meant like, this is like an old school CrossFit. It was never meant to be like, this is the only thing you do. It was meant to combine multiple disciplines of fitness so that you could be like the quote unquote, like a great athlete, you know, like you would practice so many different disciplines between like weightlifting, gymnastics, running, whatever, that you could go try some random sport and you would excel at that. But that's very different than where CrossFit is at today, I think. But
You kind of disagreed about combat sports athletes with CrossFit?
Yeah,
What's your
absolutely. Yeah. So the issues and like complications with rhabdo are incredibly like individual based on how the person pushes themselves during the workout or event or whatever, right? But I think CrossFit in general, what is CrossFit? CrossFit is day to day the prescription of movements and weights changes, right? And there's like 5 different movements, right? Something like that. And generally it's like as many as you can per round. Yeah, you know, and you go for time, right? So it depends on the person, very similar to training in jiu-jitsu, right? You can fucking go balls to the wall, you can go super hard, or you can just be like chill, flowy, you know, working on different things, you know. And I feel like that's the same with CrossFit. I feel like CrossFit in general, a lot of people shit on it, you know. I personally, I don't like kipping pull-ups, you know.
I was literally going to say it's the kipping pull-ups.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Personally, I don't like kipping pull-ups, but whenever CrossFit popped off, it had such a huge influx of like participants. Like people fucking loved it. And I'm like, yo, I am all for movement, you know, getting people up off the couch into a gym, or just fucking just moving, you know? Yeah. I feel like CrossFit is a bit on the more extreme side, which isn't bad. You know, it just depends on how the person gets to that point. And I mean extreme as in like big Olympic lifts and like gymnastics movements, which is, in my opinion, on the more difficult end for Gen Pop, you know? But again, it depends on the individual. So it's just like another thing that helps people get up and get moving. Talking about combat sports specifically, I feel like CrossFit is good because it, in a sense, mimics like rounds, you know, with like interval training, especially with like rowing, ski erg, air bike for like high intensity intervals. You know what I mean? And I feel like that carries over extremely well for combat sports.
Yeah, I think my point is more so like if you were in like a fight camp, I think that you have to be very careful with where you expend your energy. And
Fair.
then like what kind of recovery deficit you put yourself in. Yeah. And that would be my concern as a coach. It's like if you take like what I saw from a CrossFit class, you get pretty wiped out from it. Yeah. And like you could do one of those a day and you really probably couldn't get like a 2 a day in, like an effective 2 a day in. And so I would just advise more of like specifically train your strength, specifically train your conditioning. Maybe sometimes those kind of happen more simultaneously, but just like isolating like the skill training for the actual sport itself and then the hard training for the sport and then like strength separate, conditioning separate, just so that way you can maximize, like, say, the conditioning benefits with like minimal amount of recovery after.
For sure.
Just because, like we said, I feel like if you do like the worst CrossFit class, your body is just going to be wrecked after, and that would be inadvisable for a camp for me.
For a camp.
Yeah.
I feel like for
like off season, I think it would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
For
Somebody, I mean, shit, somebody like me that's like trained for funsies. I don't like to compete. I'm a big old bitch. I don't like to compete. I just like to train a ton and work out like on my own a ton, whether that be like, I don't know, powerlifting, CrossFit, whatever. I just kind of do my own shit, you know. But I feel like that combination of training on the mats and doing CrossFit would be great for general fitness, you know, and that would be symbiotic in a way.
You would have to like eliminate certain movements if you wanted it to be effective for someone who wants to like have a primary sport like jiu-jitsu or whatever, and then they do CrossFit on the side. Like that guy I was telling you, Jason Kalipa, when I was filming some content for like some of the content I would film for him, he would also have this other athlete. He's a jiu-jitsu athlete. I can't remember his name, but he competed. And so like he would come to the guy Jason's house and like train with him because he wanted to get his conditioning up, which to your point, Juice, I think the conditioning side of CrossFit could be great for jiu-jitsu because you're like constantly moving for, maybe you do like what's called an EMOM, and you do like every 5 minutes you need to accomplish this amount of work, and however quickly you do it, that's your rest period till the next 5 minutes or whatever. But when he would train with him, this jiu-jitsu athlete, when he would train with Jason, like it was very like, they weren't doing like technical lifts or anything. It was like rowing, burpees, like maybe deadlifts at most, box jumps, like stuff that's very like low risk factor. So because I agree, if you're going to be doing like snatches, which is like an Olympic weightlifting, and then you're going to be doing muscle ups, which is a high level gymnastics move, like that's just too risky if your primary focus is a sport that you can't get injured for, you know? So I think there's like a fine line, but then at that point, like you have to remove so much of CrossFit as well that like you're just doing functional fitness fast, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned EMOMs. We love EMOMs.
Oh, for sure.
Every minute.
No, we don't.
Minute.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
You said you hate burpees. I've grown to
Nobody.
love them this year. We go to a boxing gym here in town, and
Shout out Archetype.
and they put us through usually 20 minutes, every minute on the minute. It's a bunch of different variations of like burpees, push-ups, jump squats, whatever, pull-ups. And it's crazy how much it pushes your body. Yeah. And like we all love wearing the heart rate monitors, and so you can track it. And like I track all these types of workouts that I do, and like the graph is so nice on an EMOM because you just see like a perfect slope of your heart rate just continuously going up.
I was thinking of mine where it's like it would go spike up and then you come back down and spike up. And
No, that's the hills.
Oh yeah, that's the in me workouts.
But yeah, like the race to see like, okay, if it's a minute every minute and we're doing 5 burpees, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, you're actually rushing to get it done as fast as you can, so that way you can rest for as long as possible. But like as it starts stacking up minute after minute, like you just start getting into that red zone. And last week we had a workout and I spent like 10 minutes in zone 5. So I'm at like 90% of my max heart rate, and it was like sketchy, but I was like, afterwards I felt so good, because then when you go to jiu-jitsu, you barely touch on zone 5 usually, you know, and then like if you've spent minutes there, like you can kind of hang. I do think I'm like overdoing my zone 5 training though. Like I don't think
In general?
Yeah. Like I think during the week I'm hitting like way too many minutes between like jiu-jitsu and the EMOMs.
Last week, that was last week, right? Our last one.
Yeah.
Was I looked at my chart or graph or whatever, and I spent more time in red than any other zone.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
And this is like over like an hour and a half or something.
You're wrecked out.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to talk with someone that's a little bit more, studied in like kind of cardiovascular health, because like, you know, I'm talking all this shit about CrossFit, but like I maybe do too much cardio into the red, you know, into that zone 5, and there's probably like a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You know,
You said you get there during those EMOMs for sure, but you said you also get there during jiu-jitsu a lot.
for sure.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, like if I roll with you, I'm gonna get to the red pretty quickly and sustain that. It kind of depends on the partner, but I would say in like an average round, I might like touch on like 30 seconds of it.
Yeah.
And like obviously I can kind of pick and choose my battles on the mat, and so I can kind of like, do I want to compete, or do I want to like let this guy get something on me? Or if I like really don't want to, then like, yeah, the red can get there pretty easily. But that also depends a lot on like the size of the guy. Yeah. Guys, I got to take a quick break, but I'll be right back.
Cool. Yeah, shit, I got to piss too.
I do too.
Yeah, see?
I do too.
Cool.
Perfect. Yeah.
Take a little pause there. I love bubbly, but when I drink it, I gotta pee so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. I'm thirsty too. I'm gonna get one.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I like talking about it because, like, dude, when I was in high school, that's when I was really like, I was like a diehard, like, you know, when they said CrossFit's a cult, like I was in that cult.
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
You know, and I remember all my friends in high school would be like, make like, you know, you talk shit with guys in high school, like you just stupid teenage kids, like they would always be like, oh, you do like that, you know, when you're doing pull-ups, that would be like the thing. They'd always be like, that's stupid. You know?
I don't like it, but I do like. I understand it.
You're not doing
for
it for
CrossFit. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it as the pull-up movement anymore.
100%.
Which is perfectly fine. It's just
if you look at a kipping pull-up as the same benefits as a pull-up, it's stupid.
Yeah,
it's the worst type of pull-up you can do. It's just a different kind. It's more
just
a
a different
cardio
movement.
Yeah. I would say it's more a cardio movement. If you're like better at CrossFit, it's definitely more of a cardio movement and like a grip strength thing.
Can you hit muscle ups?
Can I still hit muscle ups? I haven't even touched a bar or set things in
before.
here. Oh yeah, I'm
pretty easily.
Not that I would like compete, but like there was a point where I was doing like local competitions for CrossFit, and then one year I did regionals as a CrossFit, but like on a team. That was like the height of like my quote unquote career.
I've only hit 2 muscle ups.
Oh, for sure.
Before, and I felt really good about it. But it was like a lot of like fucking swooping my legs in. A lot of English, you know.
I've maybe hit one like strict muscle up.
That's where I want to be, bro.
But like kipping, I could knock out like 15 kipping.
I want to be like strict, dead hang, slow.
Is that, you think like your mobility has anything to do with that movement? Because I feel like strength wise, you're at the top end. I can
bang out 30 pull-ups, bro.
Yeah. So it
seems
like just fine. The transition from the end of the pull up to the press on the muscle up.
It's that, and I don't know if it's actually mobility because I think that's like I can do this, you know. But it's just it's just like the skill and the transition.
No, every time we do the clap at the beginning of the podcast and you have to get your hands behind your microphone, I can see the mobility factor coming into play, bro, and it's like. I can get this all day, and it's so funny. Like when Matt was showing you the elbow pass grip and posting the hip, and you're saying like that grip is hard to get. Yeah. I don't know what that feels like. I can't relate at all.
I don't know what the middle of my back feels like. So,
dude, that one I don't even know who it was. It had to have been some bodybuilder, but it was like a famous video I saw probably 10 years ago or more of someone like putting a sticker on him.
And you can't fucking get it.
And he couldn't get it. That's and that shit just cracks me up, bro.
That's me, for real. I cannot fucking get that shit. I'm gonna grab a drink too. It was real good. No good?
I'm chilling. I got this new high calf coffee. Nice. And I'm on my second cup. And like I feel like I could run through the wall right now. Dude, stuff is so caffeinated.
I want to love coffee so bad.
Oh,
it just goes straight through me.
Yeah.
Like every time I drink coffee, like straight to the bathroom. And some people are like, dude, that's how I go to the bathroom in the morning. Like, I can't.
Do you use caffeine though?
No. I mean, I'll have like a chai tea like at home. Wow. Like I'll mix it and that's it. But like mainly just like water and bubbly, which is water.
That's crazy. I'm one of those like use all of them.
Gotta have,
you know. So like I'll like today, for example, I had the 7 a.m. gi class, and I knew we were doing this, and I'm like a caffeine junkie, pretty much. So on like a normal day, I have to do 7 a.m., which usually I would have like an energy drink or a coffee. And then depending on the day, I might have like a lunch class, but then I always have to go back in the afternoons as well. So it's like caffeinate at least once, maybe 2, maybe 3 times each day. But I'm like learning, especially doing this, that like I need to have everything be sharp. So like today I did training session, no caffeine, was brutal because my body is so accustomed to the caffeine for training that like I always feel like it just takes way longer to warm up when I don't have it. But then getting the workout done, rehydrating, refueling, and then get like a lot more out of it. You know, because I just have those days where like, have you ever trained at 7 a.m.?
Once.
How was it for you?
So I was gonna say like I don't really wake up like crazy early, so maybe that's why like I'm not big into coffee, but like it was like an 8 a.m. class I did, and it was cool. I'm not like, I prefer to do my fitness like in the middle of the day, but
Yeah. Yeah. And I see all sorts of people. I've got like the morning crew. We got a new guy who started training with us in the morning, basically because like he had a kid and like, the schedule changes and stuff. And this morning specifically, he said, like, man, you guys got this kind of energy at this time. And it was like 7:20, and we just like shoot the shit because a lot of us have been doing the morning classes for years on end, and we're kind of used to it. But it always cracks me up whenever people come in and they're like not morning people or whatever, and it's like, this jiu-jitsu at like 7 o'clock can be difficult.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, and some people think we're crazy, but it's like, to me, I'm at the point where that's just my routine.
Yeah.
Except for Saturdays, pretty much wake up in the morning and go straight to Fight Factory, and then that's like the warm up. And the first session's like, okay, I got that out of the way. Now it's like ready to, usually we'll go from like there to the boxing gym,
for sure.
And it's like, okay, I taught a class, maybe I rolled a little bit. At least I showed some techniques, and now I'm kind of warming up. And like, I don't feel like the day's really started until I've gotten onto the mat and done something. And then, after that, it's like, get into whatever I can. All right. We were shitting on CrossFit.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think like CrossFit and Hyrox kind of check the same box I was talking about with like where jiu-jitsu goes with like the future of AI, in that like it's just a group workout. It's a community. Yeah. I think a lot of people enjoy that aspect just as much as like they care about their fitness. Obviously you want to be fit. I will say the Hyrox athletes definitely look the part,
Rock stars.
Yeah, dude, they're rock stars. That's a crazy name. Hybrid rock stars.
That's pretty fucking wild.
Self-identifying as a rock star is wild to me. And that's like, I don't know. I feel like that's part of the problem of like the world we live in is like you go to a group class and you're a rock star now.
Super cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was why I had to look it up because I keep hearing this word Hyrox and like I get hybrid.
It's never going to be the same because Hyrox sounds sick and then hybrid rock star.
I'm just like,
and like this is also Google AI mode. So maybe I just got lied to and I'm just like spitting out bullshit.
Just running with it.
Like somebody else is like, no, that's not what Hyrox actually stands for.
It's funny.
But yeah, I just feel like people, like, especially like I said, people working from home or like there's just less socializing. So and less exercise, right? People are, I studied exercise science, and like the thing that I care the most about and a big thing we were studying and the information we were going off of was now like pretty much 10 years old, but the rising obesity of adults, the rising obesity of children in the US. Like we have a serious problem on our hand. And it's like, at the time I graduated, like 2019, we were at like pretty much touching on 70% of adults in America are either overweight or obese. And that obese percentage of that 70% was like 30 to 40%. Wow. So it's like, we're getting close to like half of the adults in this country are going to be obese, not just overweight. And
what do you think the reason for that is?
Oh man, I mean, it's a combination of like that. That's a lot of what we studied in my classes, right? Like, what are all these factors that are leading to this? And it's like a super complicated answer because it's like suburbs, right? How do you build your city? Because then you got to get in a car and drive through food, and then what's in the drive through food, right? So it's a really complicated answer of why we're gaining so much weight in this country, but it's like obviously the lifestyle choices, the sedentary lifestyle, and then mixed with like the high calorie, like the crunchy, salty food stuff, right? Like most people are eating that stuff. And then that's also,
Love it.
you see it with like poor people eat worse food.
Yeah.
So then you see like as, kind of on the financial side, if you have less money, you're generally going to tend towards less healthy, So, like you said, celebrating any kind of movement, but
Bro,
my
100%.
problem with the examples of the rock stars is that with over half of our country, almost 3/4 of our country being overweight or obese, I have always felt that it's too big of a disparity between like the 8-pack rock star and then like the guy on his couch who wants to get fit. And that's where I think like jiu-jitsu, obviously I'm super biased on jiu-jitsu, but it's a little bit more inviting because like in jiu-jitsu, you can be like a obese guy. And if you stick with it, you'll for sure lose weight. You'll for sure get more fit, but then like you'll be skilled and like you can actually go do something. And I've just seen a lot of guys lose weight through that. And like, even if you don't get out of even being obese or you don't get out of being overweight, like I know that you're going to be more healthy if you're non-sedentary, right? You're active. So I just feel like sometimes like with the Instagram fitness world, right? And you just talked about making Instagram videos and being a part of the CrossFit world. It's like this photoshopped, airbrushed kind of world that we live in. And I just feel bad for the people that like there's very few people that actually look like that. And then that's like the ideal. And then the people at home are sitting there trying to get fit. And it's like hard. I just feel like it's discouraging if you're like an overweight person to look at like the examples before you. And it's like, I'm never going to get there, you know? And it's like, I just feel like, why would you even try, you know? So
I never even realized that people like Photoshop their pictures.
It's crazy, dude.
Like you say it and I like realize or like recognize it. I'm like, oh yeah, that is something that people do. But I don't know, for the longest time, I just never like couldn't even fathom people like airbrushing themselves for Instagram or something like that. But it totally I
Have
see
you
it.
seen that guy on Instagram? He'll like call out influencers, particularly influencers who like push some sort of fitness program. He'll like call them out and like show proof and go through all this stuff of like people who are fitness influencers trying to sell a program who Photoshop their photos on Instagram. And like it was like you can go deep into the rabbit hole of like he's like very investigative and he goes after he like put up photos of like comparing different angles and stuff, and like he'll point out lines that like, dude, a normal line would not go that way. But it's crazy to see that people like to sell their programs, they'll Photoshop themselves to make them, dude, they already look jacked or they already look super fit, but then they'll do it to an extreme to look even more in that direction.
Well, I feel
Sell
the same
even
way
more.
about like not being honest about what kind of stack they're on, right? I think there's a lot of people selling their fitness programming, and it's like, okay, you might follow the program, whether say it's like nutrition and the workouts together. Okay, well, these guys are also on other chemicals, and they're not forthcoming about that, right? And that kind of reminds me, like, kind of going back to the finance with like the Instagram world and influencers and that kind of stuff. Like, you've heard of the people that would like go rent a fake jet to go take like their photos, right? And that's kind of what I was trying to touch on earlier of like this false lifestyle, you know? And it's like that whole world of Instagram, I feel like has just created that where you want to look more fit than you are, you want to look more lavish than you really are. And that's kind of the photoshopped ideal versus like the average American. There is such a massive like disparity between those two things. And I feel like there's somebody out there that needs to kind of champion for like just a little bit of health and fitness. Go on a walk, something more simple.
Go on a walk. Bro, I was saying earlier that people like used to / still do, maybe, I don't know, like just shit on CrossFit, right? Bro, people would just be shitting on pickleball.
Controversial, but fuck pickleball.
People just be shitting.
I can shit on pickleball.
People shit on pickleball, bro. But I'm like, I just see it. I haven't played. I'd probably fucking crush because I'm literally good at everything. But people just fucking hate on pickleball.
That's
Just go
funny.
play tennis.
They shit on pickleball, but I'm like, yo, man, like people getting outside, moving around, beating some fucking whatever the fuck that is. Go for it, man.
For sure.
Live, move.
Yeah.
Anything, whatever fucking gets people up, off, and moving.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I think the reason I would shit on stuff like that is just like the sustainability. I mean, like, look at the businesses that invested these millions of dollars into like 20-court pickleball because it got really popular. And I feel like talking about CrossFit peaking, I feel like the pickleball peak was like 6 months. And then it started coming back down. And I'm sure people still play it. But I wonder, like, what marketing strategy hit to make that so popular?
I just feel like it blew up.
Accessibility.
Yeah. Super cheap to get a little paddle and go to a park.
Why not tennis? Tennis is fun. It's like adult pickleball.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like people view tennis as more like a bit more athletic. So to your point, it's slightly less like achievable.
Yeah, like a lower barrier to entry.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's no expectations with pickleball.
Yeah.
No, it does seem fun.
Yeah.
Like I like games. Like I would definitely go play. No one's ever invited me.
Bro,
to play,
I've never
like, I
played.
don't really have the interest to go do it anyway.
I've never played the fucking.
Oh, spike ball?
Yeah, I'm just like.
Let me know. I'll bring it.
You have
I
it?
love spike ball.
It's like, okay.
Wait. Are you talking about the one with the little?
It's like a trampoline. And
Yeah,
you're
like
like
they always
beating
play
that
at
shit on the
B-team.
trampoline.
You ever
It's
seen
like,
like
I guess so.
them playing at B team?
It's like volleyball, but mini.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing now.
I'm thinking like conceptually volleyball,
It's
but no
conceptually
net.
volleyball, but it doesn't look.
It's like a little trampoline.
It's
Yeah.
around, and you have a
Bouncing on
small
it.
yellow ball. Yeah,
I play that at the
Fucking
beach with my
beat
family.
that
It's super
shit.
fun.
So fun,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And you see like jiu-jitsu gyms, they'll, B team especially, they have a lot of content of them playing it, like I guess before or after class.
Can we play it? Is that something we can play on the mats?
100%. 100%. That sounds fun.
I'll bring it.
Let's go.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah,
Let's go.
So fun.
That sounds fun.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm probably fucking awesome at that too.
Probably.
Shit, man.
Now, like I was trying to defend you because every time we would bring up like martial arts, especially striking, he'd be like, "Oh, I don't know any striking," which is true. You've not done much of that. But even in jiu-jitsu, he'd be like, "Oh, I don't really know. I'm just kind of a beginner." I'm like, "Nah, man. Like you've got some serious skills." But after this one, next time we talk about how you're shit at jiu-jitsu,
You'd be like, yeah, you fucking suck.
You're the worst blue belt I've ever had. I think you might need to quit.
It's
the best thing for you at this point.
It undulates, like my positive self-talk versus my super incredible negative self-deprecation. Bro, the other day, what was it, Thursday? It was a Thursday morning, bro. I was fucking nice. Yeah. I was hitting shit, and I was like hyping myself up as I was hitting shit. I was like, "Oh, good shit, Juice. That shit was fucking sick." And Janice was like, "Shut up." Oh my god.
How do you feel about that with your jiu-jitsu? Do you feel like you've overcome that initial like beginner white belt phase where it's just tough and like you feel like starting to pick things up?
That guy who got me into it, Jason, what he recommended, he's like, dude, do a couple private lessons first. He's like, if I was going to get into jiu-jitsu, recommend, he's like, that's what I would do. Do a couple private lessons. Because it can be intimidating. Like, I'm looking at him doing jiu-jitsu, you get an idea of what it is. And it's like, shit, these are like high level, like jiu-jitsu athletes. But that's what I did when I first started. I did like 10 private lessons. You might know this guy. He's a competitor. His name is Nathan Mendelsohn, I want to say. He competes too, but I did some private lessons with him. Super legit guy, like super awesome. That made it so less scary to like do I literally remember the first time rolling, like live rolling. I was like, hey man, I've never done this before. He's like, I got you, dude. Like he'll, and they go easy with you a little bit. Like they kind of take you through the motions. That was a very pleasant intro into it. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're catching your stride with it? Kind of like finding your own game, moves that work for you?
Yeah, I feel like in the last like 3 months, I was actually talking to, I think you about the white belt class. I was like, dude, since they started the white belt only class, I feel like I've made more progress doing that class than I have like 6 months before that class. And he's only
shout out Sean.
Yeah, shout out Sean, dude.
Sure.
That's awesome. That's so good
shout
to hear.
Sean.
He's only had like 6 or 7 classes. Yeah, it's just he's a great instructor first. And then second, it's really nice to roll with people who are like similar skills.
Yeah.
It's hard when you just get smashed by a purple belt. And it's not, that's a whole nother like part of the game that you got to just get comfortable with as well. But like, it's hard to, feel like I can try to make a move when I'm like, dude, they know everything I'm going to do,
Yeah. Well, like my advice for someone trying to get better at jiu-jitsu is to spend like 75% of your time training with people that you're better than and you can like work stuff.
Yeah.
But when you're a white belt, how do you make that happen? So then the longer you train jiu-jitsu, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to do that because you've got more experience and you're better than other people. So like now it's easy for me to find blue belts to go roll with so that I can get like 3 out of 4 rounds with someone that I can like really work and then do that like 1 round with someone that's like a true test.
Yeah.
So that is the challenging part at white belt. And I'm sure in that class, like you're able to really get some work in, because if you really want to get better, being a white belt and rolling with nothing but like brown and black belts is ultimately, I think, like going to slow down your development. I think like you really need those reps with someone that you can actually have something work on and instead of just defending yourself all the time.
You said 70, if you want to get better, 75% of your roles should be done with people that you're better than.
Yeah. I mean, that's not like super specific like
I'm
that.
like, I'm not getting better, guys. Yeah. I am not following that prescription right now.
But more so, I think you just got to go into training with like trying to get better, trying to have like specific things you want to work on when you come in. I've been trying to encourage people like you got to take your training into your own hands a little bit and like I'm your coach. I'm there to help you, but I'm not going to build everything out for you. So like, you're definitely at a phase where like, you should start having some interest in things you want to learn. Maybe if you don't know how to do them yet, it's like, I want to learn this. I want to get better at this. So that when we have like open training time, it can be like, okay, work on the thing that you want to get better at instead of me just being like, this is what I think you should do. Cause I've done that for years and you just kind of go down this, like that move doesn't work for that guy. So now I just try to like have people find their own game and then me help them with whatever they find. you know, and especially because jiu-jitsu is like so body type heavy. I mean, we're talking about me versus Juice, right? Like I'm his coach, but like he can't do the stuff I do. Like it just doesn't make sense. And I can't do some of the stuff he can do, you know? So I have to like pull myself out of my own perspective and figure out like what's better for him. And it's like, I just can't translate all of the skills that I have directly to him. Yeah. But then I have like students built like me, then I'm like, all right, you're going to do my game more, right? So you guys like should study Rodrigo because like y'all kind of match his body type and like the movement patterns you're going to do are going to be more similar to that. And like Bucky chokes from the bottom of side control like me. You know what I mean?
Is there anything like that that you found yourself gravitating to that you like want to explore more or like get better at or look more into or something like that, you know, for your game?
Honestly, man, it was just like, don't get smashed. The whole like, and for a long time, especially because like the beginner class is pretty mixed in terms of belt ranking, like that was like the goal, like just don't get smashed the whole round. Because when I first started, like there were some guys who were super cool, super nice. There was also some guys who were like, you're a white belt, oh well, you know, and would just smash you for 6 minutes. And like I remember the first time I didn't tap out for 6 minutes, just getting smashed by a dude. I was like, that was a win. And so like that was kind of the evolution. Now I feel like in the last like 3 months, it's really been like, all right, I want to like find some videos of a move, and I just next time I go to class, I want to try that move.
Yeah,
you know, and that's been like, but it's still hard for me to like find like what is my game, you know?
Yeah.
Rodrigo talks about that all the time, which I think is super beneficial. Is like figuring out what things you can do. And I think you've mentioned this to me before, like I don't got long legs, so like there's just certain moves that are not going to be to my benefit to try. Like I should still know how to do them, but like there's going to be a game that like fits my body type a little bit better than other moves, you know? So trying to figure out where that is and where I lie.
You're talking about watching videos to find something. There's a really cool video on YouTube right now. It's called a white belt sweeps opponent. There's a move in there you should definitely check it out.
Okay.
No, he's just trying to boost himself. He's talking about like why
The one that he shot.
Yeah. So we've talked about this in a couple episodes, but like the reason we have this podcast goes back to like this viral video I took of Wiko at his first jiu-jitsu tournament, and he sleeps this guy in 30 seconds. Nice. And it's on my other channel, and it's got like close to 5 million views. Jeez. And so like I would say like you were the world's most famous white belt for some time. You know, there was some window in there. And then like, you know, Hunter?
No.
Blue belt.
You know,
I probably know his face.
Yeah, next time we're in the gym, but he's the one who ended up like beating Juice that day.
Nice.
In the final match. Yeah.
So it's just this funny thing where like it got a lot of views, it got a lot of comments, and everyone's like, this guy's a judo black belt, this guy is sandbagger, oh, he's a liar and all that. And then like a bunch of us from Fight Factory went in the comments and tried to defend him, and it's like, no, like this is kind of just a one-off thing.
Yeah.
And then like he didn't win the division. So it's like if he was a black belt in judo that put on a white belt and competed against other white belts, like he would have probably done better again.
Pretty fucking embarrassing if that was the case.
Well, dude, tell me a little bit about Just Another Money podcast.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. We were trying for so long to figure out a name that was creative, and like the co-host was just like, it's just another money podcast. I was like, that's it right there. Like, but yeah, we mainly do like, we'll find like scenarios online of people talking about their finances, whether it's like relationship and finances or trying to get out of debt or getting past like the paycheck to paycheck life. And we'll just give our take on it. Like what we think is the best path forward. Like if I was in your shoes, what would I try to do? A lot of it is like people who are in difficult financial situations, just trying to get past that and trying to give our perspective. And you know, like we're both financial coaches. We've both worked with people, help them pay off debt and all that. Like, what do we think would be the best path for that person?
Like reactions to situations.
Yeah. And so we find a lot of stuff off Reddit. Like people can go like very, you just
put a lot out there.
Yeah, they'll put a lot out there. They'll put their whole story out there, and so it's cool to like read through that. I mean, obviously some of the situations are difficult, but like to read through them and like talk about like what do we think you could do to actually improve this? I
have a situation I'd like to give.
What's up?
Yeah, limited information, but we were talking about grapplers trying to make it. We were talking about purses of like 2,500, 10 grand, 1 million, right? Say you're a young grappler. You win a competition, you win an event, or you don't win. What was the 2,500?
That was like price? Show money for ADCC 2024, I think. I could be wrong.
Okay. Is there different, generally, what should you do with that money that you get if, you're not sure when the next one's going to come, blah, blah, blah. What should you do with it? And follow up, should you do different things based on the amount that you get? You know, I imagine what you do with 2,500 is going to be different than what you might want to do with like $1 million because you have more work with. You know what I mean?
I would hope so, right?
You know what I mean? So yeah, for like the
question.
young grapplers out there trying to make it.
That's a good question. And I get a very similar question. It's like, hey, I got like $2,000. How should I invest this money? You know,
Yeah.
like my first thing is like, I want to always make sure when I work with someone that they have their foundation set up first. Because if you don't have a good foundation, and this is true in any part of your life, any growth is like, it's
going to crumble.
Yeah, it could crumble, right? But especially in your finances, if you don't have like your financial foundation set up, it's going to be very difficult for you to sustainably grow into the future. And you want to remove risk from your life as you're building with your finances. There are parts of your finances where you can introduce risk, particularly investing, but like your personal finances, you want to keep that like risk free as much as possible. And so what I always tell people is like, let's get you out of high interest debt first. So for most people who are in debt, they have credit card debt. So I'm like, let's get you out of credit card debt because that's going to be one of the biggest detriments to your finances. You can't out invest 30% interest that you're losing on a credit card. You know, let's get you out of high interest debt. Let's make sure that you can accurately manage your monthly finances, what's coming in, what's going out, you know that, and let's set up an emergency fund. So like typically, like if once you're out of debt, people will tell you 3 to 6 months of living expenses. You can get down to a very specific number with that, but like that's a general rule of thumb. Like that's a good one. Figure out what you need on a monthly basis, multiply that by 3 to 6. That's what you should have saved up. Once you hit that, then we can get creative. Then we can look for what is your goal? What do you actually want to reach? And then if you want to start investing, cool, we can, talk about that. Until that's set up though, whether you get $500 or you get 10 grand, that's where I would tell people to like follow that steps. Get out of high interest debt, figure out how to budget, build up an emergency fund. Next level would probably be make sure that your retirement is starting to get taken care of. Beyond that, cool, like what's the goal? What do you actually want to do? For me and my wife, it was we want to buy a home. And so we saved up for 4 years. We were like in the weeds of saving money as much as we could every single month. And that was the goal. So like that's what we worked towards. But we did all the other steps before that. We got out of debt. We learned how to budget. We made sure our retirement was like making progress. And then we saved up aggressively to buy a home.
So if you don't have an emergency fund, you probably shouldn't be looking at like Bitcoin prices and
100%.
right.
That personally, that's what I believe. Yeah. Like if someone comes to me and says, hey, where should I invest this money? I'm like, are you out of debt? Do you know how to budget your money? And do you have like your retirement and stuff set up? Do you have an emergency fund? Like, do you have the foundation set up? If you don't, like, dude, you investing in Bitcoin, or you investing even in a good investment, what I would call a good investment, like a S&P 500 ETF, like it's just not worth it in my mind. I'd rather you take care of the simpler stuff first. Then we can build from there. Because if you get that stuff handled, especially early on in your adulthood, your career, dude, you'll have so much room to grow into the future. Like you got to look at your finances in terms of decades, not just like months or years, You're going to have your highest earning potential when you're 40, 50 years old. You want to be in a good position to where you've been saving and investing for years at that point, where debt has you've eliminated that so long ago, you don't even remember it anymore. Like once you can get to that position, then we can really talk about being creative with the finances for sure.
And as far as investments go, you mentioned like good investments and S&P. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, there's good investments and bad investments. Good investments are ones that make money.
That's a good way to put it.
Is that
Good
essentially
investments are what?
ones that make money?
Okay.
I would
Is
say
that
like
essentially it?
when I maybe I shouldn't have said good. What I should have said is lower risk investments. So what I see as like quote unquote a good investment when you're starting out may be different than when you're 10 years into your investing journey. But like I work hard for my money. My wife works hard for her money. You guys work hard for your money. I would tell you put your money into something safe and predictable. Right. And that may grow a little bit slower than if you were to like, back in, 2020 when everyone was betting on AMC or whatever,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's like meme stocks, there's like speculative investments like Bitcoin, whatever. I would say like put the majority of your money into something that's safe and predictable. An easy one is like a total stock market index fund that measures all of the United States, right? Like unless the entire United States fails, which at that point we're trading bullets and water, like your investment's probably going to be fine and come back even if we have a downturn, Yeah. So I would rather put my hard-earned money into something that I think is safe, that I believe in, like, right, I believe in the U.S. economy and is predictable. Like you can look back in the last like 40 years, it's grown like 10% a year if you don't account for inflation. That's a pretty steady amount to grow your money. There's like a number, I think it's like 8% if you earn every 7 years, the amount you have will double. So like you can kind of play the math on that. Like you can start to really build wealth quickly. If you can hit that 8%, you can really start to build wealth. Maybe not quickly, but like, you know, you get to your first 10 grand and all of a sudden you hit 20 grand and then 40 grand.
It's compound.
80. Yeah, it compounds so quickly. But that's also why the importance of having your foundation set up, because that is never going to beat you having 30% interest on your credit card, or even now, like 15% car loans, whatever it is, you know, like you got to get that stuff out of the way first.
And just back to like good investments, bad investments, sure. Right? Good investment. Well, okay. No. True, false. Good investments is one that makes money. Bad investments is one that loses money.
I would say that's generally true. Yeah.
It has to be true, right?
Yeah.
Now, the difference in a good investment that you would prescribe for different people is almost exclusively contingent on risk tolerance. And that's something that you're mentioning, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that's also true?
Yeah.
So a good investment for you could be, might not be a good investment for somebody else if they want to like maybe take more risks and, you know, maybe have more time or whatever, right? It's all just like how they feel about it.
Yes,
right?
To a degree. I wouldn't tell someone to put their entire retirement portfolio into Bitcoin and they have a high risk tolerance. And so that's a good, you know, quote unquote, good investment for them. I'd say that's still a bad investment. I think that's true to a degree, right?
Could it be still considered a good investment? Okay. My argument is that it can still be considered a good investment if it makes money, but just incredibly high risk. So you personally wouldn't do it, but that doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't or shouldn't. Like the amount of risk is fucking insane, right? And you wouldn't, I wouldn't, nobody probably wouldn't or shouldn't ever actually do it. But that doesn't mean it's not a good investment if it makes money.
It's an interesting conversation. I get what you're saying. Because if someone had put their entire retirement portfolio 10 years ago into Bitcoin, you could not convince them they didn't make a good investment.
That's a good ass investment.
I wouldn't tell you today that's a good move.
Right.
Conversely, though, if you look at the guy, the Dogecoin millionaire, I don't know if you guys heard him, he took out his entire retirement and maxed out like credit cards or whatever. He put hundreds of thousands of dollars into Dogecoin. At one point, it was worth several millions of dollars. He was set. People were like, sell it. He's like, no, it's going to go more. And now it's worth a fraction of it, right? Yeah. So like that, he had a high risk tolerance. He could have made an argument for that being a good investment. You just also don't know what it's going to happen in the future. Right. I'd rather bet on something that is going to be predictable. And again, even with an ETF that gets you 10%, it still could be down for 5 years in a row, you know, but like, you have a whole set of history and data to look at and be like, all right, it's a little bit safer, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, I'm just saying I agree.
Yeah. No,
but
if it makes you money and it's working, right. You know, like you know, what's that saying? Like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, if you're making money from it, you're making money, you know, and that's what ultimately you want to be doing with your investments.
So it seems like for the most part, whenever you're suggesting investment strategies for folks, overall, you tend to go safe.
Yeah, and like I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell someone, hey, you should be investing in this stock.
Got it.
I can tell people what I do personally, and then teach them like some philosophy around investing and like some good rules of thumb and things like that. And so like I would never tell someone either way, like you should buy this ETF because it's a good one for you. I would tell people, again, what I said. Like I work hard for my money. I wanted to put it in something that's safe, stable, predictable. This is what I would pick. And I think this is a good starting point for people. You know, ultimately though, based on like the scope of work that I do with people, I tell them you got to make all of your own decisions. I'm happy to walk with you, to guide you, to be with you at every step of the process, but you have to be the one to take control of your finances. And that also comes down to even the nitty gritty of picking out which stocks you want to invest in, or stocks versus Bitcoin versus ETFs or whatever.
Do you think people should... I know you just said you're not a financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. Do you think people should look more at the whole like individual stocks, index funds, that kind of stuff first, or should they look at like retirement, IRA, that kind of stuff? I feel like it's different.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's I would tell, like for me personally, I did start with individual stocks, and looking back on it, tons of mistakes. Could have easily put my money into an ETF, would have been sitting on more than I'm sitting on now, you know? So looking back on that experience, I'm like, I think it would have been a good starting point to get your bearings with investing in something that's simple, easy, predictable, like an ETF, right? One that tracks the top 500 companies in the US or tracks the total US stock market. I think that's a good place to start. And then you can start to expand out as you're like, all right, I want to try like single stock investing. So let me take, $500 and try it and see how I do over the course of 6 months. And then you can reassess, like, you know what, maybe I'm good at picking stocks. Maybe I suck at it. You don't want to bet all your money on that. Cause like the problem is like, you could put all your money into what you think are good picks, and then it could go down for tons of reasons other than the company's actually bad. Like you're betting all your money. If you put all your money into one company, you're betting on that CEO not doing something scandalous. Like what did we see a couple months ago? Like that CEO who was caught cheating with his wife live on, literally something like that.
At like a Coldplay concert.
Yeah, something stupid that could cause a stock to go down. Or Netflix, which is an amazing company to invest in. They sent out a letter that says, we think we've hit our max subscribers. They're still a profitable company. They still have a great...
They said that?
Yeah. At one point, they sent out something that were like, we don't know if and I'm butchering this, I'm sure. Like, we don't know how many more subscribers we can get in the U.S. Like, we think we've hit an upper limit or close to one. That caused their stock to go down.
I see.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like... Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but they said that they have like almost hit a cap of subscribers in the US, not that they cannot accept any more subscribers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
That's better. That worded it better.
Yeah.
But that spooked investors, and then the stock took a hit,
Yeah.
Like it's things like that. And so like, I'd rather bet all my money on several eggs in a basket as opposed to like one or two eggs, but there are people who pick stocks very well, who are willing to put in the time to like dive into that. I'm just not, I don't want to spend my time looking through like data and profit and loss statements and all that. I'd rather just pick something that's simple, easy. Am I maybe letting go of potential growth if I were to put more time into it? Possibly. But then it's also lower risk, and I could focus my time on how do I grow my income? How do I enjoy life? How do I spend more time with my wife or whatever? Like, I don't want to spend time doing that. So it's like, I'd rather do something that's safe and predictable.
Yeah, for sure. For anybody listening, watching that doesn't know a lot about like investing or anything like that, do you have any platforms or like apps or like brokerages or whatever on things that people can look at on how to get started?
Yeah. When I first started like my personal finance journey, I was big into like Dave Ramsey. I think he teaches a lot of really great stuff for like the average person who's stuck in debt, wants to get out. I think that's a great starting point. As you start to like grow your knowledge and financial literacy, like the Money Guy show on YouTube, they're great. They get into the weeds. They get a little bit nerdier. That's why I love that. Brokerages and stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of popular ones like Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, like any of the big popular ones. You can't go wrong with them. They all offer similar products. And so there's no big deal there. I've also seen like apps like Acorns, I think is one of them, where like they'll invest your leftover change from a purchase. So if you make a purchase worth, where it ends in 73 cents, they'll invest the other 27 cents for you. And so that's a cool way to do it. I think I like to see people be a little bit more intentional, but I think that's an awesome way to get started for sure.
Yeah. More selfishly, do you have any resources or resources or apps or anything around tax or like finance as a freelancer?
Oh,
you know
like
what I mean? As a freelancer, as an individual contractor, because taxes are different.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like a lot of stuff, I guess, I mean, maybe not now, but yeah, taxes as an individual contractor operates much differently than like a W-2 employee, and you've been a freelancer for, since you're 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have any like specific people I'd recommend as like what to do if you are a freelancer. But it is different, there's, you got to be paying a little bit more attention. I would say if you're a freelancer with your finance. I don't know if I have any specific recommendations though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All good.
All right, dude. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to kind of shout out where people can find you across social media?
Yeah, man. If you're interested in finances, you want to listen to podcasts where we talk and break down scenarios that regular people are going through. Just Another Money podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you can find podcasts. And then me personally, my Instagram's at Habit Finances, and then my website habitfinances.com. Like if you want to get in contact, I'm always happy to just chat with people. I always tell people, if you want to get on a call for 30 minutes and I can just point you in the right direction, always happy to do that. Finances is something that I'm super nerdy about. So if you ask me a question, I'm usually excited to talk about it.
Well, sick. Thanks for watching another episode of GamePlan, the podcast. You can subscribe here on YouTube if you're watching here. We got Spotify, Apple Podcast as well. Our Instagram is GamePlan the Pod. My Instagram is Cold Jiu Jitsu. Juice, you got anything?
We good on Skilltree.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Game plan. Yes. Ooh, it was a good one.
We've been practicing that. We were at the ranch last weekend, and we're like, yo, we gotta figure this out.